This is Atomic Shinobi and today I'm going to narrate third and final part of What If Naruto found Zabuza's secret hideout in waves. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe to this channel. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
I have to get that barrel back, Naruto thought as he approached the pale man slowly. There is something off about him too, he thought as the two of them exploded into a vast field. As the man calmly put down the barrel, Naruto said, "Give me Sasuke now and I will let you live." "I don't think I will do that, Orochimaru. Sama would be very upset with me," he replied quietly. As he lunged forward and drew his katana, Naruto declared, "Then I will take it by force." When Naruto struck Kimimaro with his katana, a solid fragment of bone stuck out of his palm. Naruto felt a little startled by the strange bone dagger. Kimimaro pulled out a piece of bone the length of a broadsword and said, "This is my clan's Kekkei Genkai." As he slashed at Naruto, who skillfully blocked it and delivered a counterattack, Kimimaro said, "It allows me to grow and harden my bones." Kimimaro said, "You are very skilled with that blade." After adding his wind element to his blade and slicing a sizable portion of the bone sword, Naruto said, "Thanks." Naruto took a small step back. Naruto crossed his fingers and thought, "I will have to wear him down." Naruto yelled, "Multi Shadow Clone Jutsu," as hundreds of clones materialized and gathered around Kimimaro. As plumes of smoke appeared everywhere, the real Naruto watched the battle from a distance. All of the clones vanished after 15 minutes of non-stop combat. Kimimaro said, "Orochimaru, Sama warned me about you. He told me you were the Jinchuriki of Kyuubi no Kitsune." Naruto informed him that, "Yes, that is true. Then we are similar for we were hated for something that was out of our control," Kimimaro said. "I have come to terms with my burden," Naruto said. Naruto glanced at the man and thought, he is stalling for time. The barrel suddenly began to swell with tainted charka. According to Kimimaro, he is awakening. Before he was blinded by a bright white light, Naruto looked at the barrel and saw purple chakra swirling around it. Instinctively, Naruto shielded his eyes from the light. When Naruto opened his eyes, he saw Sasuke using the curse mark. When Sasuke abruptly fled, Naruto thought, this isn't good. Kimimaro blocked Naruto's path as he attempted to follow him. Naruto was told by Kimimaro, "I cannot let you get Sasuke, Sama." A voice called out, "Dynamic entry." A swift spinning green blur then kicked Kimimaro in the side of the head, sending him flying away from Naruto. Lee said, "Naruto-kun, you ought to pursue Sasuke." Naruto asked, "Lee, what are you doing?" Despite Naruto's constant gaze on Kimimaro, Lee told him, "I was sent to help you." Before leaping after Sasuke, Naruto said to Lee, "Be safe, Lee." Lee informed Kimimaro, "I am Rock Lee Konoha's beautiful green wild beast." He looked at the boy warily and said simply, "I am Kimimaro." When Lee abruptly disappeared in a flash of speed and launched himself at Kimimaro, Kimimaro asked, "Shall we begin?" As Kimimaro caught a kick, he remarked, "He is fast." However, Lee put his palm on the ground and kicked with his other leg, causing Kimimaro to skid across the field several times before being kicked in the side of the head once more. As he charged forward in a blur and delivered the man devastating blows, Lee thought, "I have to use my speed against him." Lee suddenly experienced excruciating shin pain. When he looked, he saw that Kimimaru's shin had been struck by the weights and that bones had broken out of his skin. When the leg warmer hit the ground and rocked the area around them, Kimimaru said, "That should have pierced your leg." He arched an eyebrow at the oddly dressed boy. As he took off his other leg warmer and let it drop, Lee said, "I wear weights." Without his leg weights on, Lee disappeared entirely. He moved too quickly for the human eye to keep up. After some time, Lee began to observe that Kimimaro was beginning to block and avoid his blows as he continued to kick and punch him. Before being ejected, Lee thought, "He has discovered my pattern." Kimimaro said plainly, "You are predictable." Because he was fighting so hard, Lee was getting a little tired. Lee thought, "I am out of shape," and then he ran back toward Kimimaro. Lee changed his course at the last second and ran in the direction of the fallen weights. Lee grabbed them and joined them to form a bow staff. Lee veered off course once more, sprinting straight toward Kimimaro before hurling his staff at him with all of its might. The staff flew at him, and Kimimaro watched. Kimimaro was unable to avoid the staff before it made contact with his stomach. He slid across the ground after being flung back and into the trench. To Lee's astonishment, Kimimaro thought, that was a different attack, and got to his feet. How has he managed to stay upright? Lee thought as he began to breathe heavily. Lee pulled the bottle out and gulped down the contents, thinking, "I guess I will have to use the elixir Tsunade Sama gave me." He blushed a little and collapsed backwards, snoring loudly. When Lee abruptly stood up in front of Kimimaro, he blinked a few times in confusion. Kimimaro could only say, "What the?" before Lee threw him out. Kimimaro was getting wild kicks and punches from Lee. He thought, his attack is totally different now. Kimimaro blinked once more as Lee slurred, "Wush ya looking at?" before kicking him in the direction of the bottle. He smelled what was inside. Is he intoxicated? As his skin darkened and six bone, like spines and a tail emerged from his back, Kimimaro thought this as he stood up once more. Lee slurred, "Yo sure or perti," and then fell backwards once more. As Lee kept snoring, Kimimaro thought, "I am not falling for that again." Lee stood holding his head and said, "Oh, what happened?" He saw Kimimaro when he looked up. He held his head up and asked, "What happened to you?" As Kimimaro charged at Lee at a much slower pace, he was answered. As he vanished and was ready to attach his foot to Kimimaro's rib cage when bones exploded out, Lee thought, "I guess that form makes him slower." When sand got between them, Lee was pushed aside and stranded on a sand cloud. He saw Gaara when he looked up. With weakness, Lee said, "Hello Gaara." Gaara said, "Hello Lee." Kimimaro began to jerk his back. Kimimaro held the sword and said, "Spine sword." He slammed into Gaara's sand shield after launching at him. The attack was barely deterred by the shield. When Gaara raised his arm, sand encircled him and raised him into the air. "Sand coffin," Gaara said without feeling. As he clenched his fist and crushed the sand together, Gaara repeated, "Sand burial." Gaara dropped the body and sand to the floor. Kimimaro yelled, "Bone bullets," as he raised his hand and hurled bones at the startled Gaara. However, the bone bullets were deflected by his sand shield's autonomous reaction. Gaara raised a hand. Gaara yelled, "Tempered Shukaku Trident," as a trident began to take shape in his hands. As the two engaged in combat, Gaara calmly remarked, "This trident is made of the hardest materials in the earth." Gaara grunted in response to Kimimaro's statement that, "You are good with that weapon." He attempted to ram the trident into his stomach, but Kimimaro's skin stopped it. With that, Kimimaro lowered his spine sword. With the exception of the fragment lodged in his shoulder, Gaara deflected the attack. The trident began to disintegrate as Kimimaro tugged and sliced Gaara's shoulder. A fat raccoon appeared between them, and Gaara jumped back and raised his hand. In agony, Gaara held his shoulder. Gaara reflected, "This guy is stronger than anyone I have ever faced." Kimimaro yelled, "Bone bullets," and began shooting the fat raccoon with his bones. "You cannot hide forever." Gaara said behind Kimimaro, "I don't." Gaara gestured with her hands. As the sand began to swirl around Kimimaro and pull him into the earth, Gaara uttered the words, "Prison sand burial." Gaara finally blew out a breath. Lee questioned, "What did you do to him?" When the ground began to tremble, Gaara informed him, "He is 200 meters below the surface of the ground." As bone spikes protruded from the ground and the two were lifted by Gaara's sand, Lee remarked, "He can't possibly be still alive." Gaara lifted both of them into the air. When everything calmed down, Lee asked, "Is he dead yet?" A voice shouted, "I will not fail Orochimaru, Sama. What will it take to murder this individual?" Gaara was thinking this almost desperately when Kimimaro suddenly materialized through one of his bone pillars in front of Lee and Gaara. When Kimimaro began to cough up blood, a bone lance began to form around his arm, and he cocked it back to strike the two nearly helpless shinobi. Lee and Gaara watched in awe as Kimimaro sagged forward, lifeless. With a shrug, Gaara levitated them out of the bone-spiked field and Lee asked, "Was he sick when he was fighting us?" "Lee, I just want to say sorry for nearly crippling you," Gaara replied. Lee gave the boy a big smile and said, "Think nothing of it." Lee held out his arm and said, "You saved my life, so we are even." Despite his uneasy feeling, Gaara took Lee's hand and shook it before Lee embraced him. "Lee!" shouted an older male voice. "Guy, sensei." "Lee." "Guy." "Sensei." "Lee." "Guy, sensei." "Lee." "I have to leave," desperately, Gaara thought as the sun began to set behind them. "Ah, it burns." In Gaara's mind, Shukaku screamed, "Please, I will stop at nothing." Shukaku begged, enthralling Gaara. The medics nodded, and Sume said, "Oh, that poor boy." A loud voice said, "Hey, stop it." Sume commanded, "Can't you see that Gaara is bleeding?" As Sume's and the medics' faces hit the floor, Guy said, "Oh, his youthfulness was so bright I could contain myself. Please, I'll stop this torture at all costs." When the sunset faded, Shukaku said, "Thank Kami, that's over." Gaara was unconsciously nodding at Shukaku. Gaara smiled as she thought, "Oh, and for that small promise you will let me sleep without taking or trying to take over my body." Shukaku sighed and said, "We are bound by a law older than time itself." Sasuke stood opposite Naruto on Madara Uchiha's head, both of them staring at each other as Naruto exploded through the forest and landed on top of the first Hokage's head. Sasuke called to him, "This is where our fight will be." Calling back, Naruto said, "Come back to Konoha. I don't want to fight you, Sasuke." "No, I was being held back by them," angrily, Sasuke said. As he pulled out his katana, Naruto calmly responded, "No, you were holding yourself back by working alone. If you go any further, I will have to take you back by force, or to kill you so Orochimaru doesn't get the Sharingan. As if you could murder Uchiha for me." As he leapt off Madara's stone head and flew towards Naruto, Sasuke yelled angrily, drew out a kunai, and slashed at him. However, Naruto managed to deflect the blow and remove a sizable chip from the kunai. Naruto shoved Sasuke back, saying, "Sasuke, stop this now." "No, how is he so strong?" Sasuke thought as Naruto kicked at him, sending him flying into Madara's chest and leaving a crater. He yelled as he kicked out and Naruto caught the attack with his hand. To the boy's ire, Naruto said, "Sasuke, I do not want to hurt you." "All right, I want to harm you," he yelled as he flew at Naruto again. Sparks were flying everywhere as Naruto blocked one of Sasuke's slashes with his kunai until the kunai was sliced to pieces. "And I will take that sword," Sasuke shouted as he launched another assault. Tragically, Naruto thought, "I will have to kill him." It would appear so, Kyuubi informed him. When Sasuke began to demonstrate some hand signals, Naruto jumped back. Fire style. Fireball jutsu. As he produced a huge fireball, Sasuke screamed. Water dragon jutsu is the water style. A giant water dragon emerged from the water and flew at the fireball, putting it out. Naruto calmly said, "Sasuke, please stop this insanity." "It's not insane." Sasuke screamed in rage at the alleged dead last's brutal beating of him. Before rushing at him, Naruto said icily, "All right, then. You have no chance to win against me, Sasuke." Fire style. Fire jutsu from Phoenix. Sasuke shouted as he began to spit out tiny fireballs at Naruto, which barely deterred him after striking his cloak. Naruto then kneed Sasuke in the stomach, sending him flying into the air. When Sasuke looked up, he forced chakra into his legs and flew through the air. When Sasuke opened his eyes, he saw Naruto flying towards him, katana point first, and he barely twisted to the side as Naruto passed. When he heard a popping sound, Sasuke thought, "That should give me a few seconds to recover." He turned to see Naruto flying at him from behind, and he wondered, how did he do that? As Naruto tackled him at full speed and the two of them crashed into the ground. As he looked down at Sasuke, who was still conscious and alive, Naruto winced in pain and thought, "Damn, I broke my leg and arm." As purple chakra began to surge around him, he felt Kyuubi surge chakra into his arm and leg, which almost immediately healed them. Naruto leapt back and flexed his limbs as Sasuke stood and the marks began to spread across his skin. "I'll kill you." As red chakra began to bubble around Naruto and he collapsed onto his hands, Sasuke screamed. Naruto growled in an altered voice, "Sasuke, stop now." "No, Naruto, I'll kill you with this power," Sasuke said savagely. According to Naruto, "I don't think so," Sasuke brashly declared. "I know all you ranged attacks and none will do anything to me. Everything except one." Naruto shouted as he extended his arm, launching the red chakra at Sasuke, who was momentarily stunned when the chakra fist struck his chest. Naruto immediately pursued the boy. Fireball jutsu in fire style. As the fireball struck Naruto, Sasuke smirked and stood motionless on the water, thinking, "Why is he so strong? No matter how much I train, he is always ahead of me." Naruto was moving too quickly for Sasuke's Sharingan to follow, and he thought, "Why can't I see him?" As he kicked his ass. Suddenly, Sasuke was able to track Naruto's movements and wondered, what is happening? Shit, his Sharingan just advanced, Naruto thought as he slashed out at Sasuke and he ducked. He heard chirping noises and saw that Sasuke was smirking viciously, but that was quickly erased when Naruto grabbed onto his forearm and kicked him in the stomach several times. Naruto let go of Sasuke at the last blow, and his hand was torn from his shoulder. Sasuke looked up to see what he believed to be a fatal blow, but was shocked to see the wound mending itself together. "You have made me angry, Sasuke," Naruto said in a deathly calm voice as a second tail began to form. As Naruto's features grew more savage, Kyuubi cautioned him, "Naruto, you can't handle much more." With some pain, Naruto thought, "I will be fine." Then, at a speed that was too fast for the human eye, Naruto charged at Sasuke, exchanging blows until neither could gain the upper hand. "I'll take this power and kill you," Sasuke shouted. The boy became even more irate when Naruto calmly said, "Sorry, but killing me and this power comes with me." Naruto watched as Sasuke's skin turned dark gray, his hair began to grow and turn dark blue, and a star-shaped mark appeared across the bridge of Sasuke's nose. Naruto was knocked back and across the river, and he thought, what the hell just happened? As he forced himself out of the hole his back made when he struck the cliff wall. Sasuke smirked viciously and remarked, "This power is amazing." As he began to make a dark purple Rasengan, Naruto said, "I will stop you, Sasuke." He then leapt at him and slammed the Rasengan into him, causing dust to kick up and obstruct his vision. Naruto waved his arm and threw the dust everywhere when he noticed a webbed hand covering Sasuke's body. What the hell is that? He thought as it moved from Sasuke's body to reveal a wing-like appendage, and then another hand tore out of his back. As he charged up a black Chidori, Sasuke said, "We will end this now, Naruto." Naruto then created another dark purple Rasengan and leapt in the air towards him, while Sasuke flew at him. Rasengan, Chidori. A dome of chakra surrounded the two and began to grow, and then two things flew out of the sphere of chakra. Naruto had another hole in his chest, and Sasuke had the burn marks from Naruto's Rasengan, and the two wounds were healing quickly. The two attacks connected with one another, and it was a battle of dominance to see which jutsu was the strongest. Hearing Kyuubi gasp, Naruto thought, "I am going to have to do that technique." Kyuubi cautioned Naruto, saying, "You know that technique sacrifices your healing ability to enhance your speed and strength." "I know that, Kyuubi," Naruto thought, as the red chakra retreated into his seal as the wound was fully healed. "Looks like I will have to increase my power," Naruto told Sasuke, who was standing across from him, as he began to hear bones cracking and muscles tearing, and he noticed a werekitsune jutting out from the cowl of the hood. Naruto hunched over and saw a hairy clawed hand tug the string of his cloak. The cloak fluttered away, and Naruto yelled, "Come on, Sasuke." Naruto slashed up, leaving 5 long gashes on Sasuke's chest, starting at his left hip and ending on his right shoulder, before he was flung back and slammed into the wall. What power is that? As the wounds Naruto had caused were healing, Sasuke pulled himself out of the hole his back had made and demanded. As he moved again and kicked out with his clawed foot hitting Sasuke's chest, causing him to crash into the hole he had previously made, Naruto told him, "I sacrificed my healing abilities to augment my own speed and strength." Naruto began to slam his fists on Sasuke, his hands beginning to bleed from the force of his fists, when an arm suddenly sprang out and grabbed Naruto by the throat. "Chidori!" Sasuke screamed as he slammed his hand through Naruto's chest once more. Naruto grabbed his feet's claws and dug them deep into Sasuke's chest, piercing both of his lungs, and he pulled back as hard as he could, racking his claws down Sasuke's chest. Naruto leapt back and grabbed his chest as blood poured down it and out of the 10 deep gashes on Sasuke's chest. The two looked at each other and quickly became soaked in their own blood. Naruto said icily, "We each can only do one more attack, Sasuke." Sasuke said, "I guessed as much too." Naruto charged up a blood-red Rasengan and said, "Let's end this, Sasuke." The two flew at each other in a sudden burst of speed, with Naruto using his increased speed to get to Sasuke first. Rasengan! Naruto yelled as his Rasengan slammed into Sasuke's stomach at the same time as he started to revert back to his normal self, when Sasuke charged a black Chidori and slammed it into Naruto's chest. The two coughed up blood. The two fell to the ground and fell onto different sides of the river. The two somehow were able to pull themselves out of the hole. Naruto had blood streaming down his chin along with Sasuke, who was reverting back to his normal body. Naruto weakly started to run as the holes in his chest started to heal themselves as he charged at Sasuke. Sasuke was doing the same and the two fists collided together and they entered another taijutsu fight. Naruto was a little faster than Sasuke and was able to deal more hits on him, but Sasuke's strength was holding out, and when they hit Naruto they were more powerful. The corners of their vision started to darken as they fought against each other. Neither wanted to pass out before the other. The two leapt back at the same time to catch their breaths. "We are too evenly matched right now," Naruto thought as his vision started to tunnel along with Sasuke's, and the two started to stumble backwards and fell into the craters they had made during their fight. Sasuke had passed out and Naruto was using the last of his strength to pull himself out of the hole and saw a figure grab Sasuke and leap away before he passed out and slid back into the crater at the same time as it started to rain. Alongside Kakashi as he followed Pakin, Kakashi thought, "I have to stop them." "What are you doing here, Kakashi?" Sume insisted on halting the Junin's progress. "Sama," Kakashi stuttered as he turned to face the marginally older but more influential woman. "All right." Sume demanded, becoming irate. Sume arched an eyebrow at Kakashi as he said, I have to find Sasuke-kun and Naruto-kun. You're concerned about Naruto-kun now? Help me protect these medics while we look for Naruto-kun. Sume asked, causing Kakashi to wince. So why did you ditch your pups? Kakashi nodded in defeat as the small group bounded off in search of Naruto. Sume inquired. Canines? Kakashi asked in genuine bewilderment. She said, students. To him. Kakashi defended himself by saying, I knew that if I didn't spend time with Sasuke-kun he would do something like this. That won't cut it when Tsunade Sama gets that talk with you. Sume advised him. And if Naruto-kun is hurt no one will stop her from placing a kill on sight order on him, Sume said. Why? Confused, Kakashi asked again. When they arrived at the Valley of the End, the men in the group covered their crotches while the women giggled. Sume told him, I am a mother and I know that those two have a mother-son relationship. If the person who hurt my pup was still alive I would rip his nuts off and kill him slowly. Sume said this as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. What took place here? A medic inquired. Before jumping to the ground with Sume right behind him, Kakashi declared, a master-level fight. After assessing the damage, the two approached a black cloak that was lying on a katana that had been stabbed into the ground, and to their surprise, they discovered Naruto unconscious in a hole nearby, with water and blood splattering around him. Naruto-kun. Sume exclaimed as she went to him immediately. She saw the hole in his chest bleeding profusely. What happened to him? Before he was hoisted off the ground by a furious woman, Kakashi remarked knowingly, those are Chidori wounds. The Chidori was Teached bastard by that power-hungry. Her voice was darkly angry as she yelled. Kakashi stammered, I.T. Told H.MT. That I.ITW. Was T.TOB.BEU. Used T.TOP. Protect. Yo Sasuke's scent isn't here anymore, a third scent is apparent here too, Pakin informed them. As she dropped the terrified man, Sume spat at him, saying, it is clear that he isn't using it to protect others. A medic said, we cannot heal him. He quickly added, Tsunade Sama will have to heal him. Kakashi, you have to take him back to Konoha. Sume said, I don't like to admit it but I am not as fast as I used to be. She continued. You are the fastest and Naruto need immediate attention, he replied. As he lifted his forehead protector to reveal his Sharingan, Kakashi said, of course. The medics carefully laid Naruto on Kakashi's back, and a moment later, Kakashi was gone. When Tsunade Sama sees Naruto, what do you think will happen, Sume? Sama? A medic inquired. The reality? As the medic nodded, Sume said, I don't know, but it won't be pretty, she muttered. At Konoha, Tsunade was working on paperwork at her desk when an Anbu walked up to her and gave her a salute. Tsunade Sama. What is it? Tsunade insisted. As Tsunade's heart began to sink, he informed her, Kakashi has just returned. With a seriously injured genin on his back. Who is it? Tsunade said, standing up, I am going to the hospital. Please tell me it is not Naruto, she pleaded, thinking frantically. As Tsunade briefly appeared broken, he informed her, it is Naruto Uzumaki, he has 2 fist-size holes in his chest. When the Anbu nodded and swiftly disappeared, Tsunade gave the order, go tell Hinata Hyuga that Naruto is in the hospital. Hospital Naruto was forced to take plasma pills to replace the blood he was losing, and one medic remarked, how he is alive is beyond me. Another medic muttered, you shouldn't say such things, Tsunade. Sama might hear you. Hear me out? Behind them, a feminine voice inquired, and the two turned to face the slender woman. No one, ma'am. The two shouted. She couldn't possibly heal those wounds, the medics thought collectively as Tsunade pushed the two away and his hands began to glow green. However, they also saw that she kept her hands over Naruto's heart, and his wounds began to glow bright red and begin to close. After 15 minutes, the wounds were completely closed, and they concluded, she did it. As 2 people were brought in, a medic hurriedly said, Tsunade Sama more wounded are coming in. Choji Akamichi and Neji Hyuga are in critical condition. Kiba Inuzuka is suffering from severe blood loss, and Shikamaru Nara is suffering from a broken finger. Get Shizune in here right away. She pointed to a medic and said, you 3 keep Neji alive. She ordered 3 medics, and then she said, and you get me everything from the Akamichi clan and Nara clan on the Akamichi pills. They all nodded and went to work. Tsunade went to Choji's side and ran her hands over his body, knowing that his organs were beginning to systematically shut down. She tried to heal the damaged organs to give herself a little more time to find a cure for the poison coursing through Choji's veins. As he handed the books to Tsunade, the medic said, "Tsunade Sama, these are the books you requested." As she picked up the books and walked out of the emergency room, Tsunade thought, "I gave myself a day before he gets worse again." Hinata was devastated to learn that Naruto had fallen into a coma shortly after his recovery, and Tsunade had to console the shattered girl, despite her own desire to cry uncontrollably. A week has passed, and Naruto has not shown any signs of waking up. The mindscape of Naruto. Then Naruto's eyes began to open, and Kyuubi said, "Go back to sleep, kid. You need to rest some more before you can wake." Kyuubi made Naruto return to his sleep. Actual world. With her face marred by tears, Hinata sat beside Naruto's bed. If she wasn't present, she was out in the training field until her hands were either bloody or she passed out from exhaustion. From the door, Tsunade thought, "That girl is going to kill herself." Though she wasn't much better, she had buried herself in her work to distract herself from her son. "Hinata, you should go home and take a shower," Tsunade said, in a motherly tone, as Hinata shook her head. "Dear, you shouldn't be killing yourself over this. Naruto wouldn't want to see you like this," Tsunade said. Hinata's voice broke from inactivity as she said, "People are saying Naruto-kun isn't going to wake up." Tsunade told the girl, "Naruto is one of the most persistent person we know. He will come back to us." Hinata then revealed her actual age, hugged the older woman, and began to cry once more. "But I really do miss him." Hinata let out a cry. As she squeezed the smaller girl a bit more tightly, Tsunade said, "I do too, Hinata. We will just have to comfort each other in order to stay sane." Tsunade whispered to the girl as she allowed the little girl to cry, thinking, "You had better wake up soon, Naruto." The mindscape of Naruto. Who is crying? Naruto thought feebly as he heard someone crying in the distance. "But I really do miss him," a well-known voice screamed. "Hinata. Hime?" Naruto thought frantically. She is crying, but she shouldn't be. "I need to wake up." "Wake up," Naruto thought. "Stop, Naruto," Kyuubi cried out. Actual world. When the two felt a strong chakra surge, Hinata was sobbing on Tsunade's shoulder, and they turned to see Naruto with his back arched up and covered in crimson chakra. "Naruto!" The two screamed as they tried to approach, but the red chakra struck out, causing burn marks and knocking objects off the walls. They had to shield their eyes from the intensity of the chakra, but it vanished as quickly as it appeared, and Hinata broke down completely, dropping to her knees and sobbing even more. As Hinata cried over her lover's bed, she kept saying to herself, "Why, why?" Tragically, Tsunade thought, "She is going through what I did." She put her hand on the girl's shoulder and left her sobbing. One more week later, the mindscape of Naruto. Kyuubi gently said, "Naruto, it's time to get up." As Naruto's eyes began to open, she added, "Your maid is waiting for you." Actual world. Since Naruto's chakra flare, Hinata had hardly eaten anything and had remained by Naruto's side. She hasn't even spoken, and not even her sensei or closest friends could get her to do so. Her father and sister, Hanabi, tried to get her to react, but she didn't even react. Hanabi was on the verge of losing it because her beloved older sister was beginning to wane. "Please return to me, Naruto-kun." She thought frantically, "I don't know if I can live without you." She grabbed his hand and felt the unusual warmth. His hands have been so cold recently, Hinata thought hopeful, but no, I mustn't get hopeful. She clamped her eyes shut as more tears began to fall, and she felt a hand cup her face and wipe a tear away with their thumb. She heard a familiar voice tell her, "Hime, you shouldn't be crying." With a start, Hinata opened her eyes to see the warm, cerulean blue eyes staring back at her. Naruto. When Hinata thought, "Kami, if this is a dream, I will definitely die when I wake up," she screamed before putting her arms around him and giving him a passionate kiss. Office of the Hokage. Tsunade was signing a document while working hard and abstaining from alcohol for the last 2 weeks when, Naruto. The papers were all over the place when she heard someone yell, and by the time the first one hit the floor, nobody was in the office. The room of Naruto. When Hinata was finally dragged away from Naruto, she pinched herself and winced in agony. Naruto appeared perplexed as tears began to form in her eyes, and he cupped her face and said, "Hime, you are much too pretty to cry." Where are we?" Naruto asked, surveying his surroundings as memories of the battle he had engaged in flooded his mind. Hinata saw him clutch his head in apparent pain and trailed off, Naruto-kun, instead. Just as Tsunade reached the door, Naruto screamed as his eyes went blank and he collapsed backwards, unconscious. "What took place?" Tsunade cried out. Hinata said, almost crying, Naruto-kun woke up then I. Then he asked where we were then he grabbed his head and went unconscious again. Tsunade sighed and remarked, well, it is good to know he is out of the coma. But, I figured he had temporary memory loss and he must have gained it back in an instant and it was too much for him to handle. Tsunade replied. But, when Tsunade saw Hinata slide under the covers and rest her head on Naruto's shoulder, she blinked and interrupted the girl once more, saying, it is perfectly normal. You should get some sleep Hinata. Tsunade said to the girl who was already asleep, I meant you own bed but I guess you want Naruto to see you when you first wake up. With a sigh, Tsunade approached the girl and pulled the blankets up to fully cover her before leaving the sleeping pair to begin telling everyone that the prankster Hokage had returned. Late at night the moonlight streaming in through the window illuminated Hinata's face, making her appear angelic. My hime is so beautiful, Naruto thought as he brushed a few strands of hair out of her face. It is dark out, Naruto thought, opening his eyes once more and focusing on the window. I tried to sit up, but felt a weight on my shoulder. So I wasn't dreaming you were awake, Hinata said in a nearly inaudible whisper as her eyes snapped open to reveal two vivid blue eyes staring down at her. With Hinata's proportioned nude chest against his, Naruto leaned in and whispered, I am awake Hinata. Hime. The kiss quickly intensified, leaving both of them nearly nude. Hime, I think we shouldn't go too much further. Naruto found it difficult to form words. Hinata lay fully on his chest and said, I just want to be closer. Naruto blushed a little when he felt her soft skin on his own. Let's sleep like this. Hinata muttered as she fell asleep once more. Naruto yawned and fell asleep as well. The morning after as the unwitting pair approached Naruto's room, Ino, Sakura, Tenten, Tsunade, Shizune, Anko, and Kurenai said, okay just to warn you they might still be asleep. Tsunade said this so they wouldn't be alarmed if they saw Hinata and Naruto sleeping together. Their mouths dropped open as Tsunade opened the door and several gifts fell to the floor, and they all said, okay. In front of them, Hinata was sound asleep, apparently nude, on top of Naruto. Sakura reflected on Hinata's larger chest and thought, no wonder Naruto picked Hinata. Naruto! Kurenai screamed, threatening to murder him. This is not what it looks like. Hinata squealed and ducked her head under the blankets as their eyes snapped open. Naruto yelled rapidly. Kurenai was prevented from hurting the already wounded genin by Anko and Shizune. Naruto Uzumaki, what do you two think you were doing? Tsunade was demanded. We were dozing off. Hinata slid off of him and hid against his side, burying her head into his side as Naruto yelled. Kurenai and Tsunade gave Anko two extremely threatening glares when she said suggestively, more like sleeping together. What were you doing? With little control over her rage, Tsunade demanded. We shared a kiss. Nothing more, Naruto informed her, he added hastily. So why are both of you nude? Kurenai screamed, humiliating Naruto. My boy, he's that. From the window came a perverted giggle. Jiraiya, what was that? Tsunade posed a perilous question. Jiraiya swallowed uneasily and said, nothing Hokage. Sama. She is the scariest woman I have ever seen, he thought, almost having a heart attack when he noticed that all the women except the blushing heiress were staring at him. I am going to go. Jiraiya said as he called forth a large toad and they fled. What were you two doing, Naruto? With a strained composure that Naruto knew was phony, Tsunade asked. Shizune Kurenai and Anko's mouths dropped open knowing that a jutsu like that used for that purpose would lead to the best orgasm of their lives. Tsunade blinked a few times, and everything he said could have happened. Sakura and Ino were unconscious on the floor. Naruto said with a completely straight face, we had mind-blowing sex, and if I hadn't have placed a sound barrier around the room people would have heard Hinata scream my name when I created a miniature Rasengan and inserted it into her. Is the Rasengan something you can teach me? Anko asked seriously as Shizune Kurenai and Tsunade looked at her. What? The three women blushed and turned their heads away as Anko said matter. Of. Factly, you know you two want to try that too. Turning to face Naruto, Tsunade remarked, wait, we're getting off subject. The three other women scowled at Anko's joke, someone was getting off last night. Naruto informed them, well, I won't deny that part. Are you saying that you lied about it? Shizune inquired. In his mind, Naruto added, even if I did want to do that to her. Yes. Naruto told her. But that Rasengan part is a theory for me. We kissed, somehow our clothes were removed and I stopped her before anything else happened. As Shizune picked up Ino and Kurenai followed the two out, Tsunade turned to face the two unconscious girls with blood running down their noses and shook her head, saying, okay, I believe you. How about you teach me the Rasengan, Naruto? With a twisted smile, Anko inquired. Naruto laughed at Anko's antics and said, sure, I can teach you, but I won't teach you the technique to reduce the size. Anko moaned in disappointment and stalked out, slamming the door behind her. Are they no longer there? With a tiny trickle of blood streaming down her nose, Hinata asked, raising her head back up. My arrow. Haim, you wanted what I said to happen, didn't you? Naruto said, grabbing a tissue and wiping her nose. Naruto inquired. With a flush on her cheeks, Hinata said, I will neither confirm nor deny that. Her cheeks darkened as Naruto said, you know I can make a sound barrier fairly easy. Ravage his body, shouted Hinata's perverted mind. The non-perverted side argued, no, you mustn't, we must remain pure until we get married. The arrow side retorted, why wait when we know we are marrying Naruto-kun? The non-perverted side agreed almost enthusiastically, okay, ravage his body. As Hinata began to go through hand signs, a dark hue covered the walls. Now, no one will hear me scream. Hinata told him as she kissed his lips, and Naruto groaned as she said, you know Naruto-kun, I know my own sound barriers. Are you certain about this, Hinata? Hinata leaned forward as Naruto let out a moan. He shivered as Hinata whispered into his ear, I have never been more sure in my life. Naruto then abruptly flipped Hinata over in. 1 week later, a week has passed since Naruto last woke up, and Hinata was waiting for him as he was being released today. Naruto was standing in front of a full body mirror, examining the 3 scars on his chest, and he carefully touched one of them. As Naruto pulled the shirt over his head, he thought, this sucks. Then he felt 2 arms encircle him from behind. Hearing Hinata breathe into his ear, he said, Naruto-kun, you shouldn't be caught like this. Naruto smirked as he remarked, well, it looks like someone is frisky. As she assisted him in pulling his shirt over his head, Hinata whispered to him, what can I say? You are irresistible. Smiling, Naruto remarked, geez Hinata. Haim, it is like you are a new person. She smiled at him and said, what can I say, I am happy. As he planted a kiss on her lips, Naruto said, and I think I know why. Oh. As they blushed and turned their heads away from one another, Tsunade said, I will disregard what I just heard. The two parted ways after hearing a voice from the door. Slipping his cloak over his shoulders, Naruto cleared his throat and said, so, what would you like? Naruto inquired. Tsunade, who appeared anxious, informed him, there is a council meeting and the main topic is you. As he straightened his cloak, Naruto remarked, I figured this day would come sooner or later. What did you figure out? Confused, Hinata asked. When he heard her knuckles crack, Naruto looked at her clenched fists and said, and since I hurt or killed their precious Uchiha, they will be more amped to at least kick me out of the village. The civilian council never liked me much, so they often tried to find reasons to kick me out of the village, or be executed. Those idiots! Hinata cried out. Naruto remarked, I remember one not too long ago. The flashback starts. The citizens were staring at Naruto with hatred as he stood in the council room. Why didn't you return Sasuke-kun's katana to him? A woman on the council demanded. Is that his katana? As he withdrew his katana and stabbed it into the wooden floor, Naruto asked, laughing, do you know what? If he can actually hold it for longer than a few seconds, I will hand it over to him willingly. Oh, and I hope Sasuke-kun can handle an A-ranked lightning jutsu running through his system. Shibi said, elaborate. Naruto remarked, this sword isn't like your normal ones. A sentient was sealed inside the blade. Naruto informed them that there were 9 katanas to fight the demon lords in the lightning black dragon. So you're using the only weapon that can destroy the thing inside of you? An additional councilwoman inquired. Naruto told them, once again, no, this is the second most powerful blade in current existence. This blade is where? Danzo inquired. The Uzumaki clan gave it to the only non-Uzumaki that could wield their blades. Naruto said, I don't know. How many blades of this type were made? Danzo asked. I will not tell you that because it is an Uzumaki clan secret, Naruto replied. Demon brat, you will tell us, a council member shouted. Heishi, tell me why I cannot learn the Hyuga Kaden, Naruto replied. Heishi tried not to grin as he said, it is a Hyuga clan secret. As Sasuke entered, Naruto told them, you cannot tell me to talk about a clan secret when that clan isn't even part of Konoha. You know what, Sasuke, I made a deal with them. Naruto told him, grinning at the haughty brat, you get it if you can hold the katana for more than a few seconds. As Naruto watched Sasuke grab the blade's hilt, Kyuubi laughed and said, Naruto-kun, This shouldn't be as funny as it is. 2 seconds later, Sasuke was flung across the room by a huge lightning bolt. As he snatched up the katana's hilt and put it away, Naruto grinned and said, "Oh, now that was satisfying." Naruto told them, "I am leaving now." He left the room where the civilian council was shouting about Naruto injuring Sasuke-kun. End of flashback. As they left the room, Naruto informed her, "They have attempted several times to have my katana taken away, but they never did like me." Hinata snarled, "I want to rip their heads off." According to Naruto, "I bet you do." It was Tsunade who said, "Hinata, you will not be allowed into the room with us." "What is the purpose of this meeting?" Naruto inquired. "It is a trial," Tsunade informed him sadly, adding, "But regardless of the trial's verdict, I have a mission for you." Before Tsunade and Naruto entered the room to see the Elder, the Shinobi Council, the Civilian Council, and Danzo, Naruto kissed Hinata and said, "Okay." He sighed when he noticed that the entire Shinobi Council was staring at him. In a formal tone, Shibi said, "Welcome back, Naruto. I don't get why I don't get a seat on the council since I am basically at all of them." Naruto laughed. Evidently unaffected by Naruto's joke, Shibi said, "I would wholly agree to that." Naruto grabbed everyone's attention when he said, "I do have 2 questions. Danzo is the representative of the Uchiha clan, correct? So what is he doing here?" he asked, and they all nodded. "Any Uchiha who is not loyal to the village has no right to be here," Naruto inquired. "The pup is correct," Sume replied. "Danzo has no right to be here since Sasuke Uchiha isn't loyal anymore. Sasuke-kun is devoted to her." 5 very high killer intents were aimed at the councilman, who was glared at by Suande, Sume, Heishi, Shikaku, and Choza before he was swiftly put in his place. "My son was injured because of Sasuke." When Tsunade publicly declared that Naruto was her son, everyone was taken aback. The 5 shouted at the man. "Now to begin with this farce," Tsunade said, "Danzo, you are to leave immediately." Danzo snarled and walked out of the room. "Naruto Uzumaki, you are here to be brought on the absurd charge of assaulting another loyal shinobi of Konoha. You ought to respect Sasuke-kun more," a councilman shouted. "Are you attempting to give me directions from the Hokage?" the man cowered as Tsunade snarled at him. "How do you beg, pup?" Sume inquired. As Naruto put it, "Not guilty." "This report states that you warned him. Is that accurate?" Heishi inquired. "Yes, I did." Naruto replied, "I told him to return to Konoha because I didn't want to hurt him. Then he told me that he was being held back by Konoha." Naruto informed them, "I then told him that if he goes any further that I would take him back with force, or kill him so Orochimaru doesn't get the Sharingan." Naruto responded, but he was only keeping himself back by working alone. Outside the Tower of Hokage on the steps in front of the Hokage Tower, Hinata was pacing back and forth when the Konoha 12 rushed toward her. "Is it true, Hinata? Is Naruto actually being kicked out by the council?" Sakura demanded. Hinata informed her, "It is a trial, and I don't know what to do." As Hinata turned her head sheepishly away, Ino said, "Try using your Byakugan to see what is going on." They put Byakugan deflecting seals on the walls preventing anyone from peering into the room. Hinata replied sheepishly. As he turned off his Byakugan, Neji said, "She is correct." "What charges are involved?" Shikamaru inquired. "I don't know, but Naruto-kun told me that the civilian council has been looking for a reason to kick him out of the village." Hinata informed them. "Why?" Kiba inquired. After a pregnant pause, Hinata responded, telling them, "That is for Naruto-kun to tell you. It is his secret to tell, not mine." "Secret," they all uttered simultaneously. "Is it related to the red chakra he occasionally uses?" Sakura inquired. Hinata calmly said, "Like I said, I cannot tell you." However, that one sentence told them all they needed to know. Returning to the council room a few hours later, as Naruto stood motionless before the council, awaiting the decision, Sume turned to face him and said, "Naruto Uzumaki, we of the Shinobi and Civilian Council found you innocent of all charges against you." Naruto bowed his head at them, and Sume added, "You may leave at any time." Naruto sighed and bowed to them before leaving the room, saying, "Goodbye, Honorable Council. I hate these meetings. I definitely do not want to do this when I take my seat on the council," Naruto thought as he noticed his friends seated outside the tower. "What are you guys doing?" Naruto startled them by asking. Sakura started, "Naruto," as Tsunade emerged behind him. Tsunade said, "Naruto, I need you in my office immediately," and then disappeared once more. Naruto said, "I got to go," as he also disappeared. The office of Tsunade, they both showed up at her office simultaneously. Tsunade walked to her desk and sat in the chair, telling Naruto, Naruto, what I am about to say is serious. Naruto took the seat in front of her. Hokage. Sama, what is it? With seriousness, Naruto inquired. The Tsuchikage was resentfully replaced by someone who hates your father, Tsunade said, startling him. Some of your father's enemies have found out about you somehow. Any Konoha shinobi who enter Iwa territory faces a kill. On sight order, Jiraiya informed me. Tsunade informed him. He recently sent me a letter stating that I must either turn you over or we will go to war. Will you give me your hand? Tsunade shook her head in response to Naruto's question. She informed him, no, I won't. However, I will send you on a long-term mission where you will be known as a missing nin. To give me time to assemble my forces, you must leave Konoha for at least 2 years. The new Tsuchikage is with whom? Naruto inquired. The Mizukage told me she would remain neutral until it was decided whether or not her land would be taken over, but the Raikage is with him. Tsunade informed Naruto. The Tsuchikage gave me 3 months to turn you over, and Suna doesn't have a Kazekage yet. This will be an S-ranked mission, she informed him, and he had to desert by then. Who will be aware of this? Naruto clenched his fist tightly and asked. With a nod, Naruto swallowed the lump in his throat and said, no one will know. Tsunade also said, it will be dangerous for them. The somber Naruto remarked, this is going to be tough. She informed him, I know it is Naruto, but it is essential. As he stood, Naruto said, I think I should go. Watch out for Hinata, I know she will be crushed when she finds out that I left the village. Naruto trailed off, do me one favor, as Tsunade nodded firmly. Tsunade reflected, it has affected him more than he is letting on. She was terrified when a male voice behind her said, the boy is taking it hard. Jiraiya, damn it. As she clutched her huge chest, Tsunade screamed, you nearly gave me a heart attack. He looked at the door and said, I apologize, Naruto is taking it hard. As Tsunade instructed him, Jiraiya, I will need you to meet up with Naruto a year into his desertion. Bring him to Mount Myoboku to train with the Toads. Recalling the grueling training the Toads had put him through, Jiraiya told Tsunade, what they will be teaching him will be tough on him. He shuddered at the food they made him eat. Tsunade assured him, but it will be worth it. The Hokage Tower's exterior, how am I going to deal with the fact that I hurt Hinata? But if I don't leave she will get hurt. But if I stay I might be able to keep her from being hurt. Naruto's thoughts were all along these lines as he left the tower, but he was interrupted when he felt a hand on his shoulder. Naruto turned to face Hinata with a worried expression. What is the matter, Naruto-kun? Hinata inquired anxiously, and all of their friends, with the exception of Gaara and Neji, who were both expressionless, appeared anxious. Naruto told her the truth. Nothing, Tsunade just told me about an incredibly difficult mission I will have to go on in the future. Hinata thought, he isn't telling me everything. Want to go on a date, Hinata? Hinata nodded as Naruto posed the question. As she nodded and the two left their friends, Hinata thought, maybe I can get whatever he isn't telling me. A week has passed since the trial, and things have largely returned to normal. Tsunade has begun to send genin teams out to battle more difficult opponents, and she does it so covertly that no one can see it unless they are looking. The Rookie 12 were taking on some of the most difficult missions, and Naruto was taking on missions that were ranked B and A while the others were ranked B. Naruto had finally gotten a day off and was doing some light training when he smelled lavender. Naruto hit the post and said, hello Hinata-chan. Naruto-kun. What's wrong? Hinata inquired. Naruto put on his mask and said, nothing. She said to him sharply, drop it, Naruto. I can tell when you're lying. It isn't your problem, I have just been thinking about a mission I will be going on soon, Naruto replied. As she stroked his cheek and Naruto nuzzled into her hand, she whispered to him, Naruto-kun, if you are sad, it is my problem. She was whispered to by Naruto, I wish I could tell you but it will put you in danger. Hinata told him, just tell me that you will be fine. Naruto informed her, I can't tell you that because not even I know what will happen. She put her arms around his neck and said, just try to be safe. Naruto drew her in and gave her a passionate kiss while whispering to her, I will do my best. When Hinata heard a whistle, the two immediately parted ways to see their friends approaching. Who interrupted us? As they all gestured toward Kiba, Hinata snarled. What? As Hinata materialized behind him and pulled him away, Kiba yelled, There lying Hinata. A high-pitched girlish scream was heard a few seconds after Kiba yelled as Hinata pulled him behind a tree. And Hinata returned outside while carrying an unconscious Kiba. How did you treat him? Tenten inquired. Oh, I just cast a simple genjutsu on him that made him think he was in a room with no way out, Hinata replied. That doesn't seem enough to knock him out, Neji replied. Oh, did I forget to tell you that the room had cats appearing in it? Hinata replied. Naruto remarked, he just pissed himself. How are you aware of that? Naruto gestured to the puddle beneath him as Lee posed the question. Shino remarked, that is gross. Shikamaru took out a camera and snapped a photo. So, what are your desires? Naruto inquired. Neji saw Naruto tense and said, we came to find out why the civilians hate you. I can see that this is a testy subject. You all know what happened 13 years ago. Naruto said, you could say that. Hinata took his hand. Naruto inquired. Sakura stated, Ya the Yondaime fought and killed the Kyuubi. What killed the Kyuubi? Naruto inquired. He was told by Sakura, I don't know. Naruto shocked them by telling them, the Kyuubi was never killed. The Yondaime did the only thing he could with a creature of Kyuubi's power. Naruto shocked them by adding, he sealed it away. Into a newborn baby to be exact. That is awful. Sakura let out a gasp. Naruto informed her, it is. Minato was compelled to use the Shikifujin because Kyuubi was rested and not as weak as the first two Jinchurikis. A Jinchuriki cannot use this seal. Naruto clarified, it summons the Shinigami, and you can seal anything away at the expense of your soul and chakra. The initial pair of Jinchurikis? Neji inquired. Naruto informed them that these scars originated from Mito Uzumaki Senju, the Shodai's wife, and Kushina Uzumaki, my mother. It was Kyuubi's influence during my pregnancy. How did Kyuubi get out? Shikamaru inquired. Hinata put her hand on Naruto's shoulder as he clenched his fist and turned to face the training post, punching it as hard as he could, and they watched as the punch caused the training post to explode. A man in an orange mask, Naruto trailed off. In a whisper, Hinata told him, it's okay, Naruto-kun. A man wearing an orange mask broke into the barrier that was set up for my birthing. Naruto calmed down and said, the reason the barrier was set up is because during birth the seal is at its weakest and a civilian could break the seal. Well, the man took me away from the previous elders that he had killed, Naruto explained, indicating that he could sense the questions coming. Naruto heard the girls gasp as he told them, he told Minato to leave my mother or he would kill me. Hinata thought, Naruto-kun never told me this. Naruto swallowed the lump in his throat and said, Minato immediately carried me to the safe house where he laid me on a bed. The man threw me outside when Minato was far enough away, forcing Minato to use the Hiraishin no Jutsu to catch me in time. The man had taken control of the Kyuubi's mind and freed it from my mother while Minato was caring for me. As he battled the man, Minato immediately went outside and brought my dying mother back to me. However, the man was employing a method that allowed him to become intangible. Furthermore, Minato Namikaze is more intelligent, stronger, resilient, and stamina. Rich than Might Guy, Shikaku Nara, and Kakashi Hatake put together. After successfully hurting the man, he restored enough control to the Kyuubi to prevent any more of her attacks. In an attempt to entice the Kyuubi back into herself so that he would die with her, Minato immediately turned back to my mother. Why am I unaware of this, Naruto-kun? He was interrupted by Hinata. As she gasped, Naruto explained, because this man is the co-creator of Akatsuki. Now where was I? Yes, my mother's life force was escaping her as she pulled Kyuubi back into herself, but she lacked the necessary chakra to do so. Naruto informed them, she knew that Minato would use the Shikifujin if she couldn't reseal the Kyuubi into herself. She wanted me to at least have a family to live with. However, her only option was to restrain the furious Kyuubi so that Minato could cast the Shikifujin. Naruto said, lifting his shirt to reveal the elaborate seal, he sealed Kyuubi into me. Naruto told them, shocking them even more. Normally the Shinigami would use the caster for the sealing process, but instead he used a child. Naruto swallowed as his friends processed this new information. Did you know about this, Hinata? Sakura inquired. Hinata told her pinkette friend, most of it, but what happened to his mother he never told me. My eternal rival, Yash, is a fantastic hero. As everyone gasped at the boy's antiques, Lee yelled. Tenten smiled and said, don't worry, Naruto. I know a little bit about seals. She explained that a scroll isn't necessarily a kunai just because a kunai is sealed within it. Neji remarked, if Hinata-sama trusts you, then I do. Well, Naruto thought, that is Team Guy. People don't like my clan because of our symbiotic relationship with bugs. Shino replied, I will not hate you for something that was forced onto you. As someone who had just woken up, Kiba smirked and said, sheesh, I knew you were strong Naruto, but this is unreal. Now I know where your cunningness came from. How are you affected by the villagers? Shikamaru inquired. Naruto told him gravely, I don't think you can handle what they have done with me. Sakura pressed, Naruto, please tell us. Before he began to tell them about the severe beatings, starvation, assassination attempts, neglect, and exclusion from most of the village, Naruto said, fine, but don't say I didn't warn you. During this time, Shoji had stopped eating, and the girls began to sob about what the villagers had done to him. Kiba, Neji, Lee, and surprisingly Shino were all furious. But even with all of what they have done to me, I will still protect this village that my father and mother gave their lives for. How could they harm a child like that? Sakura let out a cry as she spoke. The villagers do not know the mentality of a shinobi and didn't understand, and what they do not understand they fear and hate it. Naruto stated to her. Shikamaru said to Naruto, you claimed your father was killed in the Kyuubi attack, but only a few people perished. Who is your father? He inquired, already suspecting something. Have any of you pondered why there isn't a picture of Yondaime hanging anywhere? They all nodded when Naruto said, aside from the Hokage monument. He then took a shabby photo out of his pocket, showing them Kushina Uzumaki, Minato Namikaze, and Tsukumo Hitaki. The yellow flash of Konoha, Minato Namikaze, the white fang of Konoha, Tsukumo Hitaki Kakashi's father, and the red death of Konoha, my mother, he said. Can you guess which is my father? Naruto put the photo back in his pocket. My parentage is an S-ranked secret, which means that discussing it will result in your execution without a trial. It is to shield me from the adversaries of my father. How many of them might still be living? Kiba inquired. Try every single person in Iwa. Naruto replied coldly. My father, mother, and Tsukumo took out an entire regiment of Iwa shinobi in less than 5 minutes. To be clear, you are the son of the two most powerful shinobi in the world. Naruto nodded as Shikamaru posed the question. Kiba declared, I will never fight you again. I'll keep working until I can match your youthful strength. Lee shouted, causing everyone to perspire once more. Sure. Naruto trailed off, thinking, Kiba is a pervert, he said, hey Kiba. As he changed into a 16-year-old naked girl with a fox tail and a pair of fox ears, Naruto said, sexy jutsu. Kiba immediately slammed backwards because of his bloody nose. 3 voices said, nah, Ru, too, as Naruto reverted to his normal self and turned to face irate girls. Sakura and Ino were cracking their knuckles as Tenten produced multiple scrolls, and Naruto remarked, Sakura, Ino, Tenten, don't do this. Behind him, Naruto heard, oh Naruto.kun. As he watched Hinata spread her wings, he trailed off, crap. Well, this was a good talk, so bye, he said. As the 4 attacked him and he disappeared in a black sphere, Naruto yelled. There were mountains of documents on Tsunade's desk when Naruto entered her office. She was going through each pile slowly. She saw Naruto when she looked up. Tsunade pushed the stack of papers aside and said, Naruto, what are you doing here? Naruto informed her, I have a bad feeling about Iwa. Naruto's eyes widened and she added, I don't know what it is but I know that it is bad. I want to go investigate it. Tsunade said, say what now? Naruto informed her, I want a mission to go investigate Iwa's territory. No way! Cried Tsunade. She yelled at him, that is the most stupid thing I have ever heard. I know it might sound stupid but think like this, what if they are making something that could decide whether we win or lose in a war? Asked Naruto. Tsunade gave a little growl. He was informed by Tsunade, fine, but you will not go alone. Naruto stated, I wasn't planning on it, who do you think should come? He was informed by Tsunade, Jiraiya of course, Shikamaru, Kakashi, and Kurenai. His eyes widened as she said, but this will be an S-ranked white mission. Naruto explained, you mean this will be a no paperwork, no record mission where if we are caught you declare us as missing? Nins. Tsunade nodded, and 4 Anbu materialized as she snapped her fingers. They nodded and disappeared, but Tsunade commanded, get me Kakashi Hitaki, Jiraiya, Shikamaru Nara, and Kurenai Yuhi. Naruto, you do realize that those 3 will have to learn the reason why you are going. She nodded when Shikamaru and Kurenai entered the room, while Kakashi and Jiraiya chose to enter through the window. Naruto said, I am sure Kakashi knows who my father is. Shikamaru is pretty smart so I think he probably knows, but I don't know about Kurenai. Sensei. What do you want Tsunade? Chan, you interrupted my researching. Jiraiya responded. Tsunade nodded and tossed a seal onto the floor, causing the walls and floors to turn dark. Naruto, he said. Naruto has requested a mission. What kind of mission needs 2 Junin, a Sannin and a genius? Asked Kurenai. Their eyes widened as Tsunade said, an S-ranked whitelist mission. Naruto is going to invade Iwa territory. Jiraiya cried, "Tsunade, that is dangerous." Tsunade informed him, "I know, and so does he." Kakashi questioned, "Why is it dangerous? Aren't we at peace with them?" He was informed by Tsunade, "Not quite." Tsunade informed them, "Recently they have replaced the Sandaime Tsuchikage." She informed them, "The following information is an SS ranked secret." No one moved when she said, "You can leave now if you don't want to know. The new Tsuchikage has learned the heritage of one of our shinobi and demands we hand him over to prevent a war with them." Tsunade responded. Kurenai questioned, "How is that something to go to war other?" Kakashi's eyes widened as Tsunade remarked, "This person is the Yondaime's heir." "But all the Namakazes were killed during the last war and the Kyuubi attack," said Kurenai. "Not really, Minato's wife gave birth before she died," Tsunade replied. Kurenai finally inquired, "Does Hinata know?" In response to Kurenai, Naruto said, "Yes, of course she knows." "So why is it that you want to invade Iwa even though they are hunting you?" replied Shikamaru. "I have a bad feeling about something and it could mean something bad for Konoha," Naruto stated. "Troublesome. Why us?" inquired Kakashi. "Jiraiya and yourself are ninjutsu masters. Kurenai is a genjutsu mistress while Shikamaru is a genius." Tsunade stated to him, "You are the perfect strike force." Naruto informed them, "I will not force you to come with me. I know of one more person to help us." "Who, Naruto?" It was Naruto who said, "Gaara Shubaku." Tsunade informed him, "You are lucky that he and his sister are here." Naruto nodded, and Tsunade continued, "You can ask him to come if you want." As Naruto tore off the seal and disappeared in a black sphere, he said, "Okay, I will go ask him now." Alongside Gaara heard a movement in his room while he was meditating. He saw a cloaked figure when he opened his eye. Gaara said, "Hello Naruto." In response, Naruto said, "Hey Gaara. I have a big favor." Naruto was shocked when Gaara said, "I will do it. I owe you a lot Naruto. I could probably do 1,000 favors and still be indebted to you." Naruto informed him, "Gaara, this is something really serious. It could mean you being a missing nin if things go bad." Gaara said plainly, "Okay." Naruto nodded and informed him, "We are going to invade Iwa." Gaara said, "When do we leave?" Before vanishing as the door opened, Naruto assured him, "I will get in touch with you." Tamari inquired, "Gaara, who were you talking to?" Gaara nodded and said, "Shukaku was buzzing in my head again." Tamari nodded and asked, "Are you okay?" Gaara informed her, "I might not be here tomorrow." She asked, "Why?" but received no response. Before she left, Tamari said, "Well, be safe wherever you are going." Late at night to assemble the team, Naruto had dispatched clones. They reached him in no time at all. They were all prepared for battle, he noticed. They all jumped away when he gave them a nod. Shikamaru said, "Naruto, where are we going?" They leapt as silence returned, and Naruto said, "I feel like whatever is making me uneasy is by a body of water." Naruto stopped by raising his hand as the sun was just beginning to rise. Apart from Gaara, the group appeared gaunt. As they all sat against a tree and a collective sigh was heard, Naruto informed him, "We will rest for a little while." Naruto took out a map and examined it. "We will reach the ocean shore in 2 or 3 days if we keep up this pace," Naruto reflected. Jiraiya said, "Where are we going first?" Naruto informed him that it was the ocean shore. "We will search the shoreline and if we find nothing we will move to lakes." As Naruto nodded, Jiraiya informed him, "If we take breaks, it will take us at least 5 days to get there." Naruto informed him, "I know you don't have my endurance and stamina." Jiraiya nodded, and he continued, "Once we enter Iwa territory, we will need to exercise caution." Jiraiya and Gaara were the only people not sleeping when Naruto looked around. Naruto said, "You too should sleep." "What about you?" inquired Gaara. Naruto assured him, "I have enough energy to make it to the coast without sleep." Jiraiya leaned against a tree and closed his eyes, muttering, and some despair. Naruto inquired, "How has Shukaku been doing at night?" "Oh, thanks to Might Guy and Rock Lee I can sleep at night now," Gaara stated to him. Both Naruto and Gaara shivered, and Naruto muttered, "That horrible unbreakable genjutsu." Naruto inquired, "How long can you stay awake?" Gaara informed him, "Without meditating 2 days." Naruto inquired, "How long before you need to sleep?" Gaara informed him, "About 7 days." He nodded and went to meditate when Naruto said, "Okay, so you and I will alternate keeping watch while the others sleep." Naruto took a seat and shut his eyes. The mindscape of Naruto. When Naruto opened his eyes, he saw the verdant forest once more. He observed Kyuubi organizing scrolls while seated in front of multiple bookcases. Kyuubi told him, "You know it is a pain in the ass to sort all these. You shouldn't have told me to make 200 plus clones to train," replied Naruto. She sighed and said, "I know." She inquired, "So what did you want?" Naruto questioned, "Do you have any idea what is happening in Iwa?" "No, but my messengers of Kami have told me that there is a major disturbance there that could jeopardize the entire world." Kyuubi replied, "They didn't say what it is or where it is, just that it is evil." Naruto said, "Okay, thanks," to her. Kyuubi nodded and said, "You should get back, your team is waking." Actual world. When Naruto opened his eyes, he saw Kurenai and Kakashi beginning to move. Naruto got up, approached Shikamaru, and rudely woke him up by kicking him in the ass. Shikamaru stood up and said angrily, "Damn blondes." Naruto approached Jiraiya, who was sleeping. As Jiraiya's eyes opened and he jumped up, Naruto uttered the words in a low voice, "There are naked ladies everywhere." In less than a second, he had a notebook and pen out. After blinking at the speed, Naruto shook his head. As Kakashi twisted in his sleep, he noticed Kurenai was awake and combing out her hair. With a sigh, Naruto approached Kakashi. Kurenai knelt beside Kakashi's ear and gave him a strange look. Naruto whispered, "Look, the new Icha Icha book is on sale." Kakashi stood up similarly to Jiraiya, with the exception that he was holding cash. He surveyed the area. Kurenai couldn't contain her laughter as Kakashi remarked, "That wasn't funny, Naruto." Naruto grinned and said, "Maybe so, but I woke you up in less than 2 seconds. They nodded as Naruto took out a ration bar, put it in his mouth, chewed it, and then chased it with water. "Eat up, we are moving in 15 minutes. The taste was awful, and he grimaced. With a shudder, Naruto muttered, cardboard." As everyone started to perspire, Naruto uttered the words, "Why can't they make these damn rations bar taste like something good, like ramen?" Kurenai shook her head at the boy and remarked, "It is good to see that you are still you, Naruto." Naruto shook his head, asking, "Why does everyone hate ramen?" Kurenai smirked and said, "I don't hate ramen, I just don't love it as much as you." Naruto said, "Time's up, everyone." They all nodded and began packing up. They all began to jump away. Naruto informed them, "We are not stopping for 4 hours. Gaara inquired, "What did Kyuubi say, Naruto?" She said that her messengers of Kami said that something evil is in Iwa right now. Naruto replied. Shikamaru said, "So you can converse with Kyuubi?" And Naruto nodded. Naruto smirked as he heard a low growl in his head and remarked, "Right now she a bit ticked off at me because she told me to use 200 plus clones to train while she sorts everything out. Apparently she didn't expect me to be learning so many jutsus." Shikamaru questioned, "So what is she like?" He was told by Naruto, "That depends. During battles she is cold-hearted and wouldn't hesitate to kill if it meant someone precious to her will live. Outside of it, she is kind-hearted and would help me out with things." Naruto continued. "I'm not heartless," Kyuubi cried out indignantly. "Is she smart?" inquired Shikamaru. "Shikamaru, she is several thousand years old. I am sure she is smart," Naruto stated to him. Naruto asked bluntly, "Do you just want me to tell you everything I know about Kyuubi?" Shikamaru remarked languidly, "That would be less troublesome. Kyuubi is the queen of summons. She is the second most powerful being in existence that is alive," Naruto stated to him. "Well, chakra-wise. She is the only tailed beast who remembers anything from when they were the 10-tailed beast. She loves to play pranks on me, most of which are being naked when I go to visit her." "Is she hot?" inquired Shikamaru. Naruto felt Kurenai glaring at him and said, "I opt not to answer that." Kurenai said menacingly, "Oh, you better answer it or I tell Hinata. She has pulled that prank on Hinata too when I would summon Kyuubi to train with her," Naruto stated to her. "Anyways, she is smart. I oftentimes play shogi with her, never won one game." Naruto continued. As they crossed the border, Naruto declared, "Silence from now on." When Naruto crossed his fingers, hundreds of clones materialized, transformed into forest creatures, and proceeded. "Why did you do that?" murmured Kurenai. Naruto returned the whisper, "Advance notice." She nodded, and Naruto also said, "They will dispel if an enemy is close." A few hours later, after they thankfully stopped when Naruto held up his hand to signal them to do so, he threw a seal onto the ground and erected a barrier around them. Naruto informed them, "It is safe to talk now." Kakashi inquired, "Naruto, how long do we have to rest?" Naruto informed him, "At most an hour." Naruto nodded and took out his book, saying, "Anything more and it would be endangering us." Gazing at the book, Gaara asked inquisitively, "What is that?" "Oh, this is," Kurenai said perilously, "Oh, you had better not try to turn that poor boy into a pervert." Kakashi Hitaki. "Pervert?" inquired Gaara. Kurenai remarked, "Oh my, you are really innocent in this subject." Kurenai addressed Jiraiya and Kakashi, saying, "Well, I think it is time you two give these boys the talk." Naruto sat against a tree and ate another ration bar, saying, "No thanks." Kurenai remarked, "Naruto, it is important to know the consequences." Naruto stated plainly, "Hormones lead to sex, and when not careful, sex leads to parenthood." Kakashi remarked, "That pretty much sums it up." "Sex?" Gaara inquired. Smirking, Naruto remarked, "Ask Shukaku, I am sure she will help you." Gaara's cheeks began to flush a few seconds later, and the color got darker as the seconds went by. Naruto's gaze expanded. Naruto yelled, "Everyone hide." As he approached a tree, he grabbed the seal and swung into the tree as Gaara, Kakashi, and Jiraiya sank into the earth. "An Iwa team is moving this way," he exclaimed. Naruto had fallen to his knees and changed into a little blonde fox. Kurenai concealed herself from everyone by using an advanced genjutsu around her. When multiple individuals wearing Iwa headbands landed next to Naruto, Kurenai watched as he circled around before collapsing on the ground. Naruto glanced up at everyone. A woman lifted Naruto up and gave him a hug, saying, "Oh, look at the cute fox." The woman kept cuddling him, but a man said, "There is no time for this, we have to get to Iwa. Take the fox with you, but we have to get there fast." "How are we going to handle this?" Kurenai pondered as the group continued. Kurenai held off on releasing the genjutsu for 15 minutes. She muttered, "This isn't good," as Jiraiya, Gaara, and Kakashi showed up. Before a puff of smoke appeared and Naruto was standing in front of him, a small bird landed in front of Kakashi, who asked, "What are you going to do?" The clone stated, "The boss is going to investigate Iwa for us." Before puffing away, the clone gave the order, "He wants you to continue to the ocean and set up camp in a cave there, set up some kind of marker so he can find it." Alongside Naruto they arrived at a sizable village, but the woman had not let Naruto go. As they entered the village, the woman said, "This is your new home, Moiji-kun. How long can I keep this form up? This is not good," Naruto pondered. As he wriggled free of the woman's hold, climbed onto her head, and laid his head on his paws as they moved, Kyuubi informed him, "About 12 days. When Naruto saw someone with purple hair, he took notice. As he raised his head, he noticed that many shinobi were observing the woman. The woman received glares and frowns from the crowd. Naruto kept staring at her, thinking, "Who is that? She looks so familiar." A woman said, "That is Rin, you are not to go near her." The name caused Naruto's eyes to widen. "Is that the girl from my dad's team?" As they made their way to a tall tower, Naruto reflected. Dusk when Naruto sneaked out of the woman's residence, it was already quite dark, and he searched the area for her. When he sniffed the air, he detected a concentration of shinobi in the village center. As he approached the scent, he noticed 10 masked, wearing people closely observing a house. As he approached the house slowly, Naruto thought, "That must be where she lives." He looked through a window to see the woman preparing dinner. She had a Konoha headband on her wall. As he looked around the house for a way inside, Naruto thought, "That must be where she lives." He discovered a tiny opening in the house's side, crept inside, and approached the woman. She gave Naruto a downward glance. The woman leaned down and handed him a strip of cooked meat to nibble on, saying, "Oh, hello there, little guy." She saw the walls turn dark as Naruto pressed chakra into the wood and dug his claw into it to create a seal. She screamed as Naruto changed back to his human form. She demanded, Who are you?" Her eyes widened as Naruto said, "Naruto Uzumaki." "Naruto," she yelled, then gave him a firm embrace. She cried out, "It has been so long since I last saw you." And then she covered her mouth. The shinobi were unaffected when she went to the window to look outside. "Don't worry, they can neither hear nor see what we are doing in here. All they will see is you eating at your table," Naruto stated to her. Rin demanded, "What are you doing here?" Naruto informed her, "A mission I am on." Naruto went on, "I can get you out of here if you want, but it will have to wait a while." She told him, "I would love to go back to Konoha. What do you have to do?" Naruto informed her, "I have to gather information on the new Tsuchikage." Naruto went on, "Then we will meet up on the coast with my team." Team? Her eyes widened as Naruto said, Yakuranai Yuhi, Shikamaru Nara, Gaara Shubaku, Jiraiya and Kakashi Hitaki. With optimism in her eyes, she inquired, "Kakashi-kun is there?" As Naruto nodded. Naruto told her, "He was my Junin sensei." Naruto changed back into the blonde fox and uttered, "I have to be going now." Before running to the seal and slapping his paw over it to make it vanish, Naruto said, "Stay safe." He then ran through the hole and returned to his temporary residence, where he found the woman waiting for him. She insisted, "Where have you been?" As Naruto made his way to his bed, circled it, then collapsed on it to sleep. As he lay motionless, Naruto thought, "I need to figure out how to get into the Tsuchikage's office so I can hear the meetings." The woman entered her room, and he heard it. When he opened one eye and noticed that the light in her room had gone out, he got back up, sat on his hind legs, crossed his paws, and made a shadow clone. He then had to lie in his place while he scampered off once more in the direction of the Tsuchikage Tower. Naruto quickly made his way to the office and crept in to find a man conversing with the Yondaime Tsuchikage. Naruto ran to the two and jumped up on the desk. After glancing at the fox, Naruto grabbed a piece of meat from the Tsuchikage's plate, ate it, then laid down on a stack of papers and rested his head on his paws. "Who is this?" inquired the pallid man. The Tsuchikage stated, "One of my teams discovered this fox." He said, "Now Orochimaru. Sama, how many more people do you need?" As the name made Naruto's ears perk up. Orochimaru informed him, "Well, if you want an unstoppable army, I will need as many as possible Kenji.kun. These creatures will have no mind and will serve the person that has the password." Orochimaru continued. "These beasts, besides their massive chakra supply, what else is there?" asked Kenji. Naruto's blue-slitted eyes widened as Orochimaru said to Kanji, "Oh well, because of my ability to gain the Sharingan I have been able to clone the eyes and implant them into the eyes of the beasts." Naruto snipped at Orochimaru as she attempted to pet him. "Hey," Orochimaru grinned and said, "Don't worry, Kenji.kun foxes don't like snakes very well." He then got up and walked away. Before the door closed and he fled, Naruto got up and slipped out. This is bad, Naruto reflected. When his curse seal was in effect, Sasuke was extremely difficult to defeat. It will be a difficult war to win if an army shows up, Naruto thought as he crept back into the house, defeated the fox clone, and lay down once more. Alongside the team, Gaara stayed up to keep an eye on the team after they had halted for the night. As we approached the ocean, Gaara thought, "This isn't good. I am getting a bad feeling, something like dread." According to one of the messengers Kyuubi sent me, Orochimaru and the new Tsuchikage are working together. They are making Sharingan curse seal monsters, Shukaku informed him, causing Kurenai to awaken from her light sleep with a loud gasp. Kurenai questioned, "What is wrong, Gaara?" Gaara said slowly, "Shukaku got word from Kyuubi. It isn't good. Apparently the Tsuchikage and Orochimaru are in league with each other. The messenger said that Orochimaru is making Sharingan-powered monsters." Kurenai's pupils widened. Naruto also found a woman named Rin. Kurenai stated, she was said to be dead. Kurenai told him, "In any case, I'll take over, so you should go to sleep." She was told by Gaara, "I am fine." She informed him, "I will stay up and talk with you then." She asked directly, "So how is it having the Shukaku sealed in you?" Gaara told her stoically, "It gets difficult before I met two strange green monsters, but it became bearable." Kurenai reasoned that only Guy and Lee could frighten one of the tailed beasts. "Yeah, they can be a bit odd." "Ah, it burns so much that I can still see it," Gaara heard Shukaku shout in her mind. "Shukaku still gets moments where she sees that odd genjutsu," he continued. Kurenai said casually, "You know I have never been able to figure out how they cast that and keep it from being broken." She said aloud, "Perhaps they opened one of the 8 gates to prevent it from being broken." After a week after sneaking back into Rin's house, Naruto pushed chakra into the floor seal and cast a dark aura over the space. Naruto informed her, "It's time to go, Rin." He noticed that she had her backpack on her back and was wearing dark clothes. Naruto put a scroll in front of her and said, "I am going to seal you into a scroll so I can carry you out." Naruto pushed chakra into the seal and added, "I will unseal you in a few hours. I should be a ways out of Iwa before they figure out that we are gone." Rin asked nervously as the smoke began to swirl around her legs, "What will it feel like?" As she disappeared and the human kanji appeared on the scroll, Naruto said, "Kinda like a dream, but you won't get any rest." After rolling the scroll up and putting it in his cloak pocket, Naruto changed into a fox. He slipped through the wall's opening and headed for the main gates, which were heavily guarded. As he began to make his way to the gate, Naruto thought, "This will be harder than I thought." Naruto noticed a shadow enveloping him. Naruto cocked his head sideways in a mock bewilderment as one of the guards inquired, "Going hunting?" As Naruto slipped by, he added, "Well, don't be out too late, your master will worry." As he began to flee, he thought, "Wow, in Konoha they would be more suspicious if an Inuzuka dog walked out of the village unattended." Naruto forced himself to enlarge once he was out of sight of the main gate. Now that he was speeding toward the ocean shore, Naruto was alerted by his kitsune. Enhanced abilities that he had discovered Rin was missing. As Naruto lowered his head and accelerated, he thought, hey, they're so stupid. Naruto was searching for his teammates' marks with his sharp eyes. He rethought, I could have smelled where they were. I shouldn't have waited so long. When Naruto flew off a cliff, he was startled and blinked a few times before he began to fall toward the waters below. As he fell, Naruto threw his tail out behind him and grabbed onto a branch. He slammed into the cliff wall and stopped his descent by pushing chakra into his paws. Looking at the ragged rocks at the base of the fall, he thought, that could have ended badly. Naruto could detect his team's subtle scent in the atmosphere. He turned and noticed an irregularity where the waves passed through the cliff wall near the bottom of the cliff. Naruto began to lumber down the sheer face of the cliff. The scent of his team was stronger now. A huge wave struck him just as he was ready to enter the cave. As the water soaked him, Naruto frowned a little. They were up when he crept into the cave. Gazing at the drenched blonde ball of fur, Jiraiya remarked, I see that you are here, Naruto. As Naruto scowled at them for their laughter, he joked, it is good that you are in perfect order. As Gaara threw up a sand shield and Kurenai hid behind Gaara, Naruto shook himself dry and broke into a toothy grin. Kakashi and Jiraiya were drenched. Naruto said as he began to change back and stood up straight, "Yeah, I am fine." As Kurenai laughed at the two drenched men and Jiraiya and Kakashi glared at him, Naruto grinned and said, "Well, you two look fine." After breaking his neck, Naruto took out a scroll, set it on the ground, and infused it with chakra. The stunning brunette known as Rin emerged as a cyclone of smoke that was quickly blown away. Kakashi gaped at her openly. "Our Rin. Chan?" stammered Kakashi. "Oh, don't, Rin. Chan. Me, Kakashi Hitaki." Rin glared at him and said angrily. With a bark of laughter, Jiraiya turned to face him. As she glared at the two perspiring men, she added, "Oh, you don't have a right to laugh, Mr. Godfather." Rin turned to Jiraiya and said, "Oh, when this mission is over, Kakashi, you and I will have a little talk. And you." She trailed off in a threatening manner. When the two men finally collapsed to the ground and were in the fetal position, she said to him, "I will be telling Tsunade about that time I caught you peeping on her." Rin turned to the rest of the team and gave them a joyful smile. They were just staring at her when she said, "So what is there to eat?" According to Kurenai, a fish. Gaara questioned Shikamaru and Naruto, "Are all women in Konoha that scary?" "Pretty much," declared the two. A few hours later, Naruto nodded, and Rin said, "So we will skirt the shoreline for a while until we find something suspicious?" She informed him, "Seems like a long shot." Naruto grinned and said, "Well, if it is nothing, then you guys get paid for being on vacation." Kakashi noted, "He does have a point there." Rin told him, "No talking, Kakashi." Rin grabbed his book and threw it into the fire just as he was ready to resume reading it. As Kakashi gazed at the burning book as if it were a sin against nature, she lied and said, "Ops, my hand slipped." He had tears streaming down his face, and Jiraiya was crying beside him. "Damn perverts," is what she complained. Jiraiya and Kakashi scowled at Naruto as he said, "Huh." Kakashi, anime tears streaming down his cheeks, said, "Shut up, Naruto." Shaking his head, Naruto remarked, "It is just a book." Jokingly, Naruto remarked, "It isn't Kami reincarnate. Anyways, we should rest up a little while before continuing. I used up a lot of chakra from being in fox form for so long," he said with a yawn. Gaara informed him, "I carved out cubbies in the back of the cave. I also ground the rocks down to make an adequate bedding," he clarified. Naruto went to the back and saw several cubbies carved into the wall. He chose the closest one, crawled into it, and fell asleep quickly. "Thanks, Gaara. You are a good friend." A few more hours later, Naruto heard multiple people snoring when he woke up. When he crept back out of the cubby, he discovered that the majority of them were full. When he entered the cave's main section, he noticed Jiraiya standing guard at the entrance. Without turning, Jiraiya said, "Morning, Naruto." "Morning," was his response. "How long have I been out?" Jiraiya informed him, "Almost 10 hours. As Naruto took some of the fish and began to eat it, he continued, "We caught fish over the week that we were separated and smoked it. If you are hungry, you are free to get some. This is so much better than the raw meat I was forced to eat while in Iwa," he said. Jiraiya said, "You can eat raw meat?" and Naruto nodded. Naruto added, biting another piece of fish off the slab of meat, "But only in my fox form." As Jiraiya gave a solemn nod, Naruto questioned, "So we will move out when everyone has woken and eaten? What is wrong?" "I knew Orochimaru was evil, but this is just wrong of him." Jiraiya replied, "I never thought he would take people and make them into those things." He sighed. Naruto concurred, saying, "I know how it feels." Naruto rubbed his chest and continued, I never thought that Sasuke would go crazy like he did. And look where that got me. Jiraiya laughed sadly and remarked, I guess we were doomed from the start, huh, Naruto? Yeah, you're right. Naruto concurred, laughing in the same way. With a low growl, he said, but I will make Sasuke pay. He then grinned. Before Naruto told Jiraiya about his experience with Sasuke, he added, but I am sure I left a lasting impression on him. He nodded as Rin and Kurenai entered the main room, followed by Gaara. Jiraiya said, damn Naruto, that must have been a brutal fight. Do I have to worry about Panda.kun staring at my ass? Asked Rin. Kurenai responded, nah, he is as innocent as a baby. As Naruto slammed his palm against his head, Gaara asked in confusion, why would I stare at your ass? Naruto grinned and remarked, wow, they really didn't teach you anything. When Kakashi strolled in, he sighed as Gaara said, they just taught me to kill. Naruto remarked, so that leaves Shikamaru before we leave. Naruto joked, but knowing him he wouldn't get up till noon. They all laughed. As he stood up and made his way to the beds, Naruto said, wait here. They stared in curiosity until they heard a grumpy scream, and then they saw Naruto return with Shikamaru in tow. As they sat around the small fire, Shikamaru grunted, I hate you, Naruto. As they began to eat, Naruto questioned, so which way will we go? Jiraiya pointed to the wall and said, I have had one of my tracker toads go that way. He went on to say, he hasn't reported anything so far. Naruto stated, so we will go the opposite way. Kurenai questioned, do we even know what we are looking for? He got up and told her, something out of the ordinary. They nodded, and Naruto remarked, we will embrace the cliff wall and don't make too much noise. After 10 hours they had been traveling constantly when they reached a cliff's bend, where Naruto could see a sizable building set into the wall. Before the large metal door, he could see a number of boats. Before hiding behind the bend once more, Naruto said softly, I think we have found it. Jiraiya, do you know any Earth-style ninjutsu to make us a cave or something for rooms? Naruto inquired. As he performed a few hand signals and slammed his fist against the wall, which quickly began to fall away, Jiraiya replied, yeah. The cavern was about 10 feet wide and 20 feet long when they entered. How is this? Inquired Jiraiya. Naruto remarked, good. Gaara nodded and began to grind the stones into the necessary items. Gaara, can you work on making another room that will be used as a bathroom and make those cubbies again? He asked. Shikamaru questioned, what will we do now? Naruto informed them, recon tomorrow. Since Gaara and I are the most powerful out of our group, we will check those boats while you guys search around the building. Naruto replied. Jiraiya remarked, I think I should go with you, Naruto. No, you are pretty strong too, so you should go with the others. Having all three of us in one group would decrease our overall strength. Naruto replied. So Shikamaru, you will stay here. Kakashi and Rin will be in one group while Kurenai and Jiraiya are in the other. Naruto clarified. And Shikamaru no sleeping. He muttered, troublesome. Naruto told everyone, just kick him in the ass if he's asleep when you get back. As he took his katana out of its sheath, he declared, since I have the most energy I will dive to catch fish. He went to the artificial cave's mouth, peered out, and dove into the water. Naruto returned shortly after with a huge fish. The sight of it left everyone speechless. Naruto said, stupid fish came to me. Kakashi remarked, Naruto, that isn't a normal fish. Kakashi informed Naruto, that is a great white shark, if it was coming at you then it wanted to eat you. He continued, if you look in its mouth you will see teeth. Naruto then withdrew his katana from the shark's gills and pried open its mouth. Naruto gazed into the mouth and asked, hey, what do you know? He swiftly pocketed the tooth, which was about the size of his palm, after reaching inside and extracting it. With his katana in hand, Naruto questioned, so how should I cut this up? As soon as Naruto's arm began to move erratically, he sheathed the katana and the shark began to fall to pieces. Jiraiya instructed him to cut them up into slabs. Naruto remarked, that should be enough for a while. Kurenai said, Kakashi, Rin, and I will use an invisibility jutsu and go get wood for us. The three disappeared after making a few hand signals. She said to them, be back in an hour. Naruto told them gravely, there was something wrong when I went diving. When Jiraiya asked, what is it, Naruto? I saw levels underwater but absolutely no fish or living thing was near that place. Naruto stated to them. Jiraiya said, that is odd. Naruto warned him, don't go down there, it could be toxic or something. With the Kyuubi I am able to handle a lot of toxicants without much affect. Gaara and I will look at it because we are Jinchurikis and our immune system is high, so we can fight off mostly anything. Jiraiya said, are you sure? And Naruto nodded. As Naruto and Gaara nodded, he continued, Then we won't tell the others that there are lower levels yet. The following day, gazing at the water, Gaara muttered, I don't like water. Naruto complained as he dove into the water and quickly came to the surface. Now you tell us. A little irritated, Naruto said, just jump in, Gaara. As Naruto's level of annoyance peaks, he swims to the edge and pulls Gaara in by his legs. But, I don't like water, Gaara repeated. He glared at Naruto and said, there, now you are in the water, so it doesn't matter anymore. Naruto simply ignored the glare and began swimming slowly in the direction of the boats. Gaara nodded and walked over to the other boat when Naruto pointed quickly. He dragged his katana out and hauled himself up onto the boat deck. When he slowly walked around the deck and saw no one, he descended the stairs and was astounded by what he saw. He noticed deep gouges and claw marks on the floor and walls. What on earth is this? As Naruto entered one of the cells and examined the claw marks and chains, he thought. When he heard a bird call, he hurried to the roof and saw Gaara on the deck, beckoning him over. It looks like they were holding beasts in here, he thought again. Naruto sprang swiftly onto the water and boarded the other vessel. When Gaara pointed to the floor and Naruto noticed a red-headed girl, he whispered, what is it? Naruto snarled, you have got to be kidding me. I found her in the hold, it looked like she was hiding, and when she saw me she looked ready to scream, so I knocked her out. Gaara stated to him. As Naruto sighed, he continued, we have to take her with us. Naruto retreated to the waters after saying sternly, fine, but you have to take care of her. Naruto nodded and the two leapt into the water, saying, we should get going before the owners find us. As they moved, Gaara held the girl. He looked at the girl and thought, this isn't good. The two took longer to reach the cave. The others were waiting for them when they managed to drag themselves into the cave. Naruto pulled himself out of the water and then dragged Gaara and the girl out. So what did you guys figure out? He asked. Who is she? Inquired Jiraiya. Flatly, Naruto stated, Gaara found her on the boat. Rin, can you check her over to make sure she is in perfect health? Rin said as she approached the girl. Sure, Naruto. Naruto informed them, the ship I investigated, it was weird. They had cells similar to shinobi ones, they had chains, and when I touched them Kyuubi's chakra was sapped away. Naruto continued, shocking them. The only thing I could think of is that they are used for holding something with tainted chakra, or non-human chakra. Naruto replied. Naruto asked Gaara, what about your ship? They heard a moan and turned to face the girl, who was now crouched in the corner, staring at the group in fear. Just a lot of bunks as if they were used to transport people, Gaara said. She stammered, w.hu.a.or y.ug. Guys? Kurenai approached the frightened girl and gently said, we cannot tell you that. As he nodded and tossed her a slab of smoked shark meat and a bottle of water, she said, don't worry, we won't hurt you, Naruto. Give me some food. As she gave the girl the meat and water, she said, here, you can have this. The girl began to eat it hungrily. So what is your name? She stammered between food bites, Matsuri. Well, it is nice to meet you, Matsuri. Sorry to tell you this, but we cannot let you leave this cave until we are finished here. Kurenai stated to her. As the girl nodded and carried on eating, she added, but we have plenty of food for you to stay with us. Before the girl puked, Naruto remarked, if she continues to eat like that, she will become ill. Naruto said, she's your problem, to Gaara. After a week while the others were out patrolling and searching for a way in, Naruto was keeping an eye on the entrance. After spending some time exploring the lower levels, Naruto and Gaara decided to leave before trying their luck because they didn't find much in the first few. Without raising his gaze, Naruto inquired, what would you like? Matsuri sat beside him and asked, how did you know I was here? My nose is hypersensitive and I could smell you coming towards me, Naruto stated to her. Matsuri questioned, are you saying I smell bad? Naruto said, a little. To her. She grunted, causing Naruto to sigh, well, sorry that I can't take a bath. Naruto remarked, I would give you a bath, but I am a wind user. As Naruto hung his head, she asked in confusion, wind user? Naruto remarked, most shinobi can use chakra willingly. She informed him, Yagara.kun explained that to me. According to Naruto, okay, that makes this a bit easier. A shinobi has an elemental affinity, either wind, fire, water, earth or lightning. There are sub-elements, but I will explain those soon. My main affinity is wind, meaning I can easily manipulate the wind rather than moving the earth or ocean. Naruto clarified. She inquired, so what are sub-elements? Sub-elements are when you mix two or more of the main elements together. She was told by Naruto. Like water and earth can create either mud style or wood styles. Earth and lighting you can create magnetism. Wind and water you can make ice. There is really an infinite amount of elements you can create, Naruto stated to her. Wow, you guys must be really powerful, she replied. Naruto informed her, I am not powerful, just cursed a little while after I was born. Matsuri asked, what do you mean? But he recoiled slightly back into his cloak. You don't have to tell me. She was told by Naruto, don't worry about it. Shortly after I was born, the Kyuubi no Kitsune attacked the village I lived at. The most powerful person in our village, the Yondaime Hokage, used a forbidden Uzumaki clan seal called the Shikifujin. At the sacrifice of his soul, he sealed Kyuubi's soul and chakra into me, he said to her. I heard Jinchurikis were evil, but you are, well, not, said Matsuri. The tailed beasts aren't demons as everyone makes them out to me. Naruto stated to her. They're just mass amounts of chakra that took forms of different animals and took the leadership of their respective summoned species. It was the bad ones of the bunch that gave them their bad names. For example, the Shukaku and Sanbi were well evil. Wow, murmured Matsuri. As Naruto laughed, she questioned, so do you have a significant other even though you are a Jinchuriki? Naruto looked up at the ceiling and said, yes, I do. Matsuri questioned, you love her, don't you? He told her, with all my heart. Matsuri remarked, I wish I had someone to love. As Matsuri's face flushed brightly, Naruto remarked, but you do, a certain red-headed gourd-carrying teen. She stammered, W. What a dot or y dot ut. Talking a. About. Which caused Naruto to grin. Naruto told her, I know the way you look at him. Naruto smirked and continued, my girlfriend acted the same way around me. Well, not quite, you aren't as bad. You are shy, blush and watch him when you think no one is looking. She sighed as she questioned, is it that obvious? You have to know that Gaara and I are similar, we weren't shown love until we were older, so it is hard for us to identify love. Naruto cautioned her. When the others began to enter the cave and noticed the flushed Matsuri, Naruto said to her, probably just short of kissing him and he won't know. Kurenai questioned, Naruto, what did you do to the girl? With a smile, Naruto said to her, oh, you know, just talking. Anyways, what have you found? There doesn't seem to be any other ways into the building other than that metal gate, said Kurenai to him. We have searched almost every inch within a mile, she continued. Tonight I will go down the building again, maybe I could find a way in through down there, Naruto stated to them. The only reason we came back the first time is because Gaara's immune system isn't as high as mine. I should be able to last underwater for a lot longer without anything happening to me, Naruto said while stretching and standing up. Before plunging into the water, Naruto declared, I will be back in a while. Jiraiya and Kakashi nodded, and Kurenai sighed, he always goes in head first. Alongside Naruto as Naruto dove farther into the murky waters, he noticed lights shining more brightly. As he began to kick more forcefully, Naruto thought, just a little lower and I should be able to find out what is down here. When he first saw light, he noticed that the room was empty. He hurried away as soon as the door opened. When he peered in, he saw two men flinging corpses into the space. What did they do? As he embraced the wall and listened to the sound, he thought. The voices were muffled, and Naruto heard them say, looks like, batch, was, failure. What do they mean? Naruto pondered for a moment before beginning to swim farther and discovering a room full of corpses. He nearly threw up and lost his temper. Should I delve further, Kyuubi? He inquired. Kyuubi grimaced and began to move deeper, saying, you need to find a way in. As he went deeper, the rooms appeared to get worse. Skeletons were starting to fill the rooms. When he arrived at a room that was glowing an odd blue and he peered inside to see people in cylindrical glass tubes, Kyuubi told him, not even demons are this bad. The cylinders had a vivid blue glow. This is strange, Naruto thought, and Kyuubi couldn't agree more as he began to descend further levels and discovered a flooded lab and a broken window. Should I enter? As he swam in and noticed a drab blue light filling the room, she said, there might be a clue to what they are doing here. When Naruto began swimming toward the object he saw floating in the corner, he discovered it to be a decaying creature. Naruto noticed a number of computers and thought, it looks like Sasuke when he went stage 2 curse seal. As Naruto swam in its direction and attempted to find some sort of information device, he thought, perhaps those have something about this thing. Naruto, you need to leave quickly before we drown because your oxygen supply is running low. After giving it a nod, Naruto approached the creature, took it in one hand, and began to swim toward the cave through the broken window. The fish and other aquatic animals were keeping a considerable distance from him, he realized. Does this creature frighten them? As Naruto kicked more forcefully, he thought. After breaking the surface close to the cliff wall, Naruto swam in the direction of the cave, pulled himself inside, and then dragged the creature's body inside. He then searched the area for any indications of human life. He heard his teammates gasp. Naruto informed them, This is what I found at the lowest level. Jiraiya asked, what is it? The others weren't as fortunate, and it took all of his training to avoid losing his lunch. Before holding his hand up and leaning out of the cave and dropping his lunch into the ocean, Naruto remarked, like I know. Naruto wiped his mouth and said, I am going to try and sleep. I'll keep your nightmares at bay, kid, QB assured him as he scuttled into a cubby and curled into a ball. A few hours later Naruto awoke with a moan. He heard what the others were saying. As he crawled back out, he heard Kurenai say, if this is what they are making then we have to destroy this building. They were seated around the fire when he entered the main cavern. As he sat by the fire, Naruto said, hey everyone. When Kurenai asked, how did you sleep? Naruto informed them, QB kept most of the images out of my dreams. Naruto questioned, so what will we do with that building? Kakashi informed him, we are going to destroy it, but none of us know a powerful enough jutsu besides Jiraiya. Sama's toad flame bullet, but that is too identifiable, he continued with a nod. Maybe we should infiltrate the building to see if we can make it explode or something, said Naruto. Kurenai questioned, isn't the water toxic or something? Naruto informed them, I don't think it is. When I was swimming back I noticed that none of the fish weren't even getting close to me. I think they are afraid of the building or what is in the building. Naruto continued. Kurenai said, okay, so now what will we do? I think that since Jiraiya, Gaara and I have the biggest chakra pools we will go through the bottom floor, while you three go through the main gate. We should wait for a new ship to come in. Naruto stated to them. You guys sneak in with the people that come on those ships, said Naruto. Kakashi remarked, 3 ninja are kinda noticeable Naruto. Well Kurenai. Sensei is the genjutsu mistress of Konoha and I am sure she knows a few invisibility jutsus. Naruto replied with a smirk. As Rin and Kurenai scowled at Jiraiya, Naruto continued, and not to mention Arrow. Senin here has bragged multiple times about how he made the perfect invisibility jutsu that not even a shinobi can detect him. Jiraiya began to perspire as the memories began to flood his mind, and he continued, although I do have a feeling that he was caught once. Like a distant memory. After 2 weeks while Kurenai taught Kakashi and Shikamaru a more complex form of invisibility jutsu, Jiraiya had been teaching Naruto and Gaara his own. Naruto watched the ship enter the cave through the entrance. Naruto declared, practice is over, guys. Our chance is here. Gaara, I know your sand gets heavy when wet, but will you be able to carry any down in the water with you? Asked the man. Shukaku should be able to handle that while I concentrate on the jutsu, Gaara stated to him. As the three dove into the water and began swimming toward the building, Naruto remarked, well, let's get moving. They emerged at the wall of the building. Naruto muttered, it is straight down from here. They nodded, inhaled deeply, and then dove down. Before long, they arrived at the broken window and swam inside. When Naruto approached the ceiling, numerous bubbles began to form around his hand before he slammed it into the ceiling and began slicing through it. Naruto slipped through the ceiling fragment that had fallen to the floor and used his wind element to prevent the room from filling with water. Gaara and Jiraiya quickly made their way through the hole. When Jiraiya blew a tiny fireball onto the sand, melting it all together and sending it to the ground, Naruto questioned, how will we close this up? As he got to his feet, Naruto remarked, well, that solves that. They made a hand gesture and quickly disappeared after Naruto said, let's activate the jutsu before we are found. As they walked around the room, they noticed 3 distinct doors. A whisper from Jiraiya said, these are elevators. As they each pressed a button and entered the elevator, he subtly added, we should split up and so we can cover more ground. Alongside Naruto went up and waited patiently. Soon after, the door opened, and Naruto crept out of the elevator to discover that he was in a holding area of some sort. As he approached, he noticed a tall, blonde woman with an elderly, short man. Naruto startled the two by whispering, Onoki. Gigi, what are you doing here? As the old man demanded, who is there? The old man sighed, and Naruto whispered, it is me Naruto. Now what are you doing here? That bastard knocked me out when I was going home and then forged the letter that said that I made him my successor and then he locked me up here. Onoki stated to Naruto. Who is that? Inquired Naruto. That is Yugito Ni, she is one of Kumo's Jinchuriki, they are using her to control the raikage. Onoki stated to him. As Naruto removed the door's seal and opened it, he added, they gave her some kind of drug and she isn't too effective. He approached the stunned Yugito and placed his hand on her forehead, causing her to begin convulsing before opening her eyes. Yugito moaned, what the hell happened? Naruto stated, you were abducted by the Yondaime Tsuchikage. Yugito said, I can smell a fox but I can't see one. Naruto shocked his fellow Jinchuriki by releasing the jutsu. As she gazed at him, Naruto grinned and said, "Naruto Uzumaki, Kyuubi no Kitsune's Jinchuriki." Naruto told them, "You should leave this place." They nodded, and Naruto added, "We're blowing this place up. They're making some weird-ass creatures." "But my people," Naruto cut him off, saying, "knew that you were here yet did nothing. I am going to take the elevator up a few floors and meet up with my teammates." Naruto stated to them. Naruto informed them, "It is Jiraiya the Sannin and Gaara of the Sand." "What kind of team is that? Two Jinchuriki and a Sannin? Is it a demolition group?" Onoki inquired. Naruto remarked as they entered the elevator, "You bet it is." Before long, they were speeding up the elevator. When they reached the highest level possible, Gaara and Jiraiya were waiting for them, covered in blood. The smirking Naruto said, "I found us some help." With a bow, Jiraiya said, "Tsuchikage Sama, this just made our job easier." Onoki remarked, "Yeah, but these little kids might be strong but inexperienced." Jiraiya remarked, "They may lack experience, but they are powerful." Onoki nodded as the alarms began to sound, and then there was an explosion. You should know Naruto is strong since he is part of the Namikaze and Uzumaki bloodline. As a swarm of sound shinobi charged in their direction, Jiraiya remarked, "Looks like it begins Onoki Sama." The overpowered group swiftly defeated them. As they went, they all started running. "Save the eyes!" shouted one of the adversaries. The Yondaime Tsuchikage was discovered as they turned the corner. Onoki growled, "You!" Naruto drew his katana simultaneously with the Tsuchikage and said, "Onoki Gigi go, he is mine." When their blades struck, they abruptly flew at one another and stopped. Sparks were flying all over. As the two ducked each other's blows, Naruto remarked, "I am amazed that blade withstood my first strike." As they went on, he said to Naruto, "I am surprised yours hasn't been sliced to pieces yet." As he deflected another blow, Naruto declared, "My katana is an Uzumaki blade." As Naruto let his guard down, Kenji took advantage and attempted to cut him, but nothing happened, and I believe I know why our blades aren't broken yet. He smirked and remarked, "That is an Uzumaki blade too, and it can't cut an Uzumaki." Naruto declared, "You cannot kill me with that katana." He then launched an offensive, driving the Tsuchikage back with his quick and lethal blows. They were moving about, leaving long gashes in the walls. He trailed off as Naruto narrowly avoided a slash that would have destroyed his chest. "My katana might not be able to cut you, but when I push my wind chakra into it," he said. Naruto felt a thin trickle of blood and his shirt slid open. As he channeled his chakra into katana and the two resumed their battle, Naruto remarked, "That was a good attack." Alongside Yugito, Onoki, Gaara, and Jiraiya, they were hurrying along when they noticed a ball of electricity lodged in a man's chest and heard a loud chirping sound. Jiraiya's group was visible to the other group as they ran around the corner. With a bow, Kakashi said, "Jiraiya Sama, where is Naruto?" There was an explosion after Jiraiya said, "Fighting the Tsuchikage." With Kenji and Naruto after leaving a heap of bodies in their wake, the two managed to reach the top floor. Kenji, breathing heavily, remarked, "You are quite good with that sword." Before they charged at one another, Naruto gasped, "Same with you." He then kicked Kenji through the ceiling and onto the roof. Leaping through the opening, Naruto quickly deflected a blow. Before jumping back himself, he shoved Kenji away. He then removed his ragged cloak and tossed it aside, causing the building to tremble slightly as it struck the roof. As the two launched themselves at one another once more and collided, Naruto remarked, "Ah, that is better." A woman's voice cried out, "Naruto," before the two pushed apart. Naruto said, "Jiraiya Sensei, tell Hinata that I love her." Jiraiya yelled, "Naruto, what are you going to do?" as they saw Naruto yank the Shodai Hokage's necklace off and hurl it in his direction. He was told by Naruto, "I am going to use the true wind dragon jutsu." Naruto, as Naruto threw his katana at the group and it struck the ground, he said, "Tell everyone that I love them." Jiraiya screamed, "Naruto don't," as they saw Kenji and Naruto fly in the direction of one another. Before he grabbed Kenji, they saw the katana pierce his chest and cough up some blood. Despite the pain, Naruto cried out, "Get out of here," before he began to chant and a wind began to blow. Above Naruto and Kenji, clouds began to swirl and roll in. Kurenai watched Kenji try to escape and cried out, "We have to help him." As a wind cylinder slammed down around Naruto and Kenji, Jiraiya uttered the words, "We can't." He went on to say, "It is too late." Jiraiya pulled Kurenai away and they began to jump away, saying, "We have to leave." They heard a roar that echoed through the surrounding air after they had been several hundred yards away. "What is this jutsu?" demanded Kurenai. Jiraiya informed her, when used at full power, it is a suicide jutsu. As they began to hear the chanting intensify, Jiraiya clarified, it takes a tremendous amount of chakra, and when that cylinder comes down it traps the user and anyone with the person in it. Nothing can get through that shield. Suddenly, a dragon's muzzle and claws broke through the clouds, causing it to roar once more. Jiraiya went on to say, it is the ultimate wind ninjutsu. It condenses the wind chakra to the point that it is solid until it hits its target. As Jiraiya chuckled sourly, Kurenai asked optimistically, it can be directed? With tears streaming down his face, Jiraiya told her, there is no chance in hell that the target is the user. Kurenai cried out, summon a toad or something to help him, as the dragon roared once more and fixed its eyes on Naruto's location. Jiraiya told her, didn't you hear me? Nothing can get through that shield. With the tears still streaming down his face, he demanded, don't you think I would attempt to save my own godson if I could? As a Chinese dragon began to spin around the air cylinder and crash into the building, encasing it in a wind dome, they watched in horror and fascination. As the wind dome began to tear through the structure, Jiraiya informed them, there is less than 0.1% chance that Naruto would live through this, and he is the most powerful Jinchuriki. As Kurenai fell to her knees and began to sob more, a whisper on the wind said, tell everyone not to be sad. As Jiraiya watched the jutsu gradually begin to fade, he was expressionless. As a fierce wind blew the younger shinobi over, Jiraiya said, we will search whatever is left for Naruto. The dome condensed and exploded. When the wind subsided, they gazed at the precisely curved indent in the cliff. As they began to sprint across the water in the direction of the wreckage, Jiraiya said, we should go now. They were astounded by the jutsu's emptiness when they reached ground zero. A few dust particles were all that remained. As he gazed down into the water and saw that the lower levels had also been destroyed, Jiraiya remarked, it is obvious that Naruto isn't here. He held the katana and necklace closer to him. Kurenai said, B. But W. What A? About H. Is D. Dreams. Jiraiya gave the order, I will tell Tsunade what happened when we get back. He firmly added, she will want to hear it from a close friend. They could only nod in shock at Naruto's passing. Shikamaru was looking up at the sky with tears in his eyes. Tragically, he told himself, Naruto, you troublesome man, the girls are going to kill me. Sadistically, Jiraiya told them, we should get going, there is no use searching now. Jiraiya gave the order, Gaara, go get Matsuri and bring her. Jiraiya gave her a quick nod, and she went to search with Kakashi, Rin, and Shikamaru. Kurenai, you have till Gaara gets back to see if Naruto has survived. Onoki questioned, you aren't going to help? Jiraiya pointed out to him, no, I know this jutsu. It is certain death if someone uses it. He continued. Gazing down at a headband floating on the surface, Jiraiya chuckled dryly and remarked, I must be cursed myself. All my apprentices die before me. He noticed that it was Naruto's when he reached down and picked it up, wiping the dust off the symbol. A few days later, with a depressing aura surrounding them, the group entered Konoha through the front gate. They made their way to the Hokage Tower in a hurry. They crowded into the room after Jiraiya knocked on Tsunade's door and waited for her approval. When she saw them, she smiled, but it vanished almost immediately. She insisted, where is Naruto? Jiraiya reached into his vest and took out the necklace, causing his cheeks to twitch slightly. He put it in front of her, and Jiraiya said, I am sorry, Tsunade. She began to cry as Jiraiya told her, Naruto used a suicide jutsu to take out the Tsuchikage and the building they were on top of. As Tsunade sobbed, Jiraiya put a reassuring hand on her shoulder. She questioned Jiraiya, why does Kami have to take all the ones I love away from me? Jiraiya sadly informed her, I don't know Tsunade. Tsunade nodded as Jiraiya explained, Naruto has a message for me to give to Hinata. Before he began to leap away in the direction of the Hyuga compound, Jiraiya gave the order to the others, fill her in on what happened. Without being distracted by any female anatomy, he arrived at the compound in a short amount of time. When he knocked, a Hyuga answered the door. Jiraiya inquired, may I talk to Hishi Hyuga and Hinata Hyuga? Before vanishing into the house, the Hyuga said to Jiraiya, give me a moment. It was not long before the Hyuga returned and allowed Jiraiya to enter. He led Jiraiya swiftly through the house and toward what appeared to be an office. When he entered the office, Hinata was standing slightly to the side and behind Hishi, who was seated in front of a desk. Hishi bowed his head and said, hello Jiraiya, Sama. Hishi was immediately drawn to Jiraiya's serious greeting, hello Hishi. Sama, Hinata, Sama. Jiraiya nodded as Hishi remarked, last that I heard you were out of the village. Jiraiya informed him, I was, but it was on a mission. It consisted of myself, Naruto Uzumaki, Shikamaru Nara, Kurenai Yuhi, Gaara Shubaku, Kakashi Hitaki and later Rin Norito. He explained to them. Jiraiya's eyes went blurry and his cheeks began to twitch once more as he said, Naruto had a bad feeling about Iwa and we went to investigate it. We found a building that were creating Sharingan-equipped monsters. We waited a while before we infiltrated the building and we ended up finding the Yondaime Tsuchikage. Jiraiya informed them. Jiraiya paused and took a deep breath to calm himself before continuing, saying, Naruto stayed and fought him while he had Gaara and myself went on ahead. We met up with the other group and followed the path of destruction left from the two to the roof of the building. When we found him on the roof he was in a deadlock with the Tsuchikage. Naruto was able to push the Tsuchikage away and leapt back a little and pulled the Shodai's necklace off and tossed it to me and told me to tell Hinata that he will always love her. He then threw his katana towards us and it stuck into the ground. The two launched at each other and Naruto was stabbed through the chest. Jiraiya said as Hinata appeared to be weeping. Jiraiya reached into his vest once more and took out the headband, adding, I would have helped him if he hadn't have used the true wind dragon jutsu. As he gave it to her, Jiraiya remarked, I am sure Naruto would want you to have this Hinata. As Hinata's arms went limp to her sides and her legs failed, she collapsed to her knees, shedding tears as Jiraiya said, I am sorry, Hinata. Heishi said, Jiraiya. Sama, please stop. Before departing, Jiraiya bowed to Heishi and said, that is all I had to say. He noticed Hanabi moving down the corridor. She nodded, and he said, you are Hanabi Hyuga, right? Your sister needs you right now. She just got some horrible news. He continued. Hanabi inquired, what is it? Before he left, Jiraiya said, ask your father or Hinata. He heard Hanabi enter the room hastily. Jiraiya was crying when he struck the wall next to him with his fist, causing it to burst. When he heard a scream, he turned to see that he had punched the women's restroom wall. Jiraiya said, I apologize. Before heading out, he paused and handed the guard a piece of paper containing his bank account number. Jiraiya said, take whatever the costs are out of that account. As he left the gate and entered the street. I kinda broke one of you walls. Jiraiya raised her gaze to the heavens. Jiraiya sadly said, I hope you are happy with your mother, Naruto. When a female voice demanded, what is that supposed to mean? Jiraiya turned to see a girl with pink hair. Jiraiya nodded and said, you are Naruto's teammate, right? Jiraiya told her, you should know by the end of the day if not by tomorrow. He then went on to walk. He stopped to chat with people after noticing Enbu running around. So now she's doing it? As he observed the crowds of people making their way to the Hokage Tower, Jiraiya pondered. At Hokage Tower an hour later the purpose of this village-wide gathering was being discussed in whispers amongst everyone. When Tsunade emerged wearing her full Hokage outfit, they were all silent. Tsunade inhaled deeply as she attempted to gather her thoughts. She cleared her throat and trailed off, people of Konoha, I have called you together for a sad reason. Tsunade screamed. One of our strongest shinobi was killed recently on a mission. He died in order to protect his teammates. Sakura's thoughts were racing. Hold on a second. Naruto, Kurenai, Sensei, Kakashi, Shika, and Gaara went on a mission. He did, but they returned. Oh no, please no, she thought. Tsunade spoke quietly but clearly over the crowd. I am sad to tell you that Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze was killed on his latest mission to Iwa. That is a lie. Shouted a few people. They were told by Tsunade, I wish it was. As she watched the sadness spread over most people, she added, he used a ninjutsu called the True Wind Dragon Jutsu, which is the most powerful wind-nature jutsu in existence. However, it comes at the price of almost certain death of the user. I was told this by Jiraiya of the Sannin. Her repressed sobs caused her lip to begin to move. He used that jutsu on the Yondaime Tsuchikage who was supporting Orochimaru's experiments of monsters with Sharingan eyes. She replied. She went on to almost cry once more, saying, it took out both of them along with the building they were on. She left the stunned audience and walked back into her office, adding, you may go on with your business again. Her poise completely collapsed the moment she was out of sight, causing her to collapse to her knees and start crying while holding the necklace close to her chest. She was lifted up by the sensation of two arms encircling her. Before he placed her in her chair, she heard Jiraiya say, Tsunade, you shouldn't be caught like that. She sobbed while holding on to Jiraiya. Jiraiya tried to comfort her while she sobbed. She pleaded with him, why did he do that? Jiraiya gave her a comforting back rub and said, I have no idea. A month has passed since everyone found out about Naruto's passing, and people were at last returning to their regular lives. However, there were a few exceptions, mostly his loved ones and close friends. The worst of them all was Hinata, who hadn't eaten much or left her room much in the previous month. Tsunade, who had begun drinking even more to numb her sorrows, came in second. Kakashi would stand in front of the memorial stone and gaze at the names of his close friends and family, but his gaze would shift to a particular name on the stone. Iruka had buried himself in his work to help him cope. It became customary for all of Naruto's family members and friends, aside from Hinata, to go to Ichiraku Ramen, eat there, and discuss Naruto's previous antics and other topics. When Hinata eventually left her room and saw the sun, it was a bright day. "Why did you have to do that, Naruto-kun?" As she strolled through Konoha, she thought almost blindly. She kept seeing memories of Naruto everywhere she went. The lengthy line at Ichiraku Ramen's stand perplexed her. She noticed her friends discussing Naruto when she peered in. As she pushed into the stand, she gave a sorrowful smile. As everyone turned to face her and gazed at her, Hinata said softly, "Hey guys." "Hinata," they cried, and then they embraced her. "How are you doing?" inquired Sakura. Hinata put a hand on her stomach and said, "Better." They looked perplexed, and she said with a sad smile, "I guess I will always have a remembrance of Naruto. Actually, we all will soon." As Sakura's eyes grew wide, she continued, "I would say about 6 months from now." "You don't mean?" Hinata nodded, and Sakura trailed off. Hinata sighed in confusion as Kiba asked, "Huh, what are you talking about?" "That's what Shikamaru said. You are an idiot, Kiba." In an attempt to hint at Kiba, he asked, "When will you find out the sex?" Kiba, still perplexed, asked, "Find out what sex?" to irritate everyone. "She is pregnant, you idiot," Ino angrily exclaimed as he realized what had happened. He trailed off, "You mean you and Naruto had," as Hinata nodded. Sakura asked, "Can I touch your stomach?" Hinata nodded, and Sakura touched her tiny stomach. Sakura was aware of the lump in her abdomen. Sakura smiled and remarked, "It must have been your bulky clothes that hid it." Hinata acknowledged, "I am actually a little nervous." Sakura, Ino, and Tenten questioned, "Why?" As their eyes grew wide, Hinata remarked, "Well, I haven't told Tsunade. Sama and well, you know." Behind Hinata, a woman's voice said, "Tell me what," as she tensed. As Hinata slowly turned to face Tsunade, the voice repeated, "It is good to finally see you are out again." Fearfully, Hinata stammered, Hello T Tsunade, Sama." Tsunade questioned, "So what is this that you haven't told me?" She trailed off, I am," before running outside and throwing up into a trash can. Wiping her mouth, she returned to the stand with a grimace. Before Hinata could object, Tsunade asked, "What is wrong?" and proceeded to perform a diagnostic examination on her. Tsunade rubbed her hands over Hinata's stomach once more, blinking a few times. She trailed off, "Hinata, are you?" as Hinata gave a tense nod. "And Naruto is the," Tsunade sighed, and Hinata nodded once more. Tsunade remarked, "Well, I cannot say I am completely surprised." Hinata pointed behind her, pointing out that only the girls remained after all the guys had left. "So who else knows?" she asked. "Those scared," Ino moaned at the end. Hinata stammered uneasily, F. Father A. and H. Hanabi. Chan K. No T.Toa. Along W. With R. Rin. Tsunade said, "You don't have to be worried." As tears began to well up in Hinata's eyes, she said, "I am not mad at you. Maybe a bit disappointed for being so reckless, but I am happy." She then gave the older woman a tight hug. As Tsunade rubbed her back, she caught a glimpse of the men peering in. A female voice called out, "Hinata," as Hinata looked over and saw Asuma and Kurenai. Kurenai asked, "What is wrong, dear?" as Hinata's throat tightened, making it impossible for her to speak. Hinata nodded, and Tsunade asked, "Do you want me to tell her?" Tsunade said, "I think there is a congratulations for Hinata." Kurenai was perplexed. As Kurenai grew perplexed and began mentally reviewing the laws, her eyes widened and Tsunade remarked, "By Law 44. B, she is prevented from going on missions." Hinata nodded and said, "Hinata, your." Kurenai trailed off in wonder, "But how, when?" As Kurenai gazed up at the tall blonde, Tsunade remarked, "I think you know how and I know when." She said, "Remember that little lie Naruto told us about the Rasengan?" As Hinata flushed brightly and Kurenai nodded. "Well, I would say either he wasn't telling a lie or it was shortly after we left," she continued. Kurenai trailed off, Hinata, as Hinata grew anxious, she concluded, "Would you mind if they call me Kurenai-ba? Chan?" as Hinata appeared stunned. As more tears began to well up in Hinata's eyes, she added, somewhat optimistically, "I really want to be a part of your life more and this way I can be." Kurenai appeared astonished. Tsunade dismissed it, saying, "Don't worry, it's just the hormones." A few months later, Hinata was strolling along the road. It was clear that she was pregnant because her stomach was bulging out. When people first saw her stomach, they were a little shocked, but they soon recovered. People would stop her at random and ask her if she knew the sex yet, when she was due, and if they could touch her stomach. Hinata would always smile and respond politely, saying that she didn't yet know the sex and that they could touch her stomach in 3 more months. In fact, she was on her way to the hospital right now for her checkup with Rin. As soon as she entered the hospital, she was taken to a room and made to wait patiently for Rin to arrive. When Hinata heard the door open and saw Rin, she rubbed her stomach and thought, "I will always have a part of Naruto with me." Rin looked at Hinata and said, "Hello Hinata-chan, how is it going?" Hinata remarked, "You know about the same." Then she giggled and added, "Been craving ramen a lot." Rin trailed off as Hinata continued to giggle, "I am not surprised, Kushina.ne. Chan was the same way when she was pregnant with Naruto, but she was already a ramen lover before that, so Rin's brows knitted in confusion as she ran a glowing hand over Hinata's stomach and said, "So we are going to find out the sex today?" Rin asked, Hinata, can you give me a minute?" And Rin hurried away after Hinata nodded nervously. As Rin returned with Shizune and Tsunade in tow, she thought, "What is wrong? Please don't have anything wrong with my baby." Tsunade grinned as the two swiftly made the hand signals and their hands began to glow green. They then rubbed her stomach. As Tsunade put it, "So Hinata, which do you want more, boy or girl?" Hinata stated, "I don't care as long as it is healthy." Hinata let out a sigh of relief before her eyes widened as Tsunade remarked, "Oh, they're perfectly healthy." "They?" Hinata questioned in shock. Tsunade said, "Apparently you are having twins. One of them was hiding during the checks." She continued. Hinata's mouth nearly dropped to the floor in shock as Tsunade uttered, "And the sex in male and female." Hinata put a hand on her stomach and stammered, Twins?" Later on in the day, Hinata was in a daze when she arrived at the ramen stand and saw the line, but she didn't have to wait because she entered and saw Tucci and Ayame preparing ramen. Hinata sat at her assigned seat and said, "Hey guys." Turning to face the girl, Ayame uttered, "Oh Hinata-chan. Ayame, so is she healthy?" Hinata remarked, "You are certain it is a girl? Of course you can call it women's intuition, so am I right?" she said. When everyone in the stand fell silent and turned to face Hinata, she said, "Well, half right." Ayame let out a rather loud squeal as Hinata said, "A girl and a boy." Ayame shouted with excitement, "Twins," and Hinata nodded. Soon, Hinata received a barrage of congrats from everyone. Tucci smiled and said, "All the ramen for you is on the house." Tucci asked, "So what do you want?" and quickly felt regret for it. As everyone gave her strange looks and Tucci shuddered, Hinata remarked, Chocolate ramen noodles in beef broth with miso." He muttered to himself, "It is like feeding Kushina again." A few hours later, entering the Hyuga compound, Hinata proceeded to Hiyoshi's office. He raised his gaze to her, to which Hishi replied, "So is it healthy?" Hinata waited patiently for the realization to sink in and said, "Yes, they are perfectly healthy." As his eyes widened, Hishi trailed off, "Oh, that is good that they are," he shouted. "They," and Hinata nodded. As Hinata saw her father faint for the first time, she smiled and said, "A boy and a girl." Hanabi poked her head into the room and asked, "Why did father yell?" Hinata casually remarked, "Oh, I just told him I am having twins." Hanabi blinked a few times before her mouth dropped open in shock and she too passed out. Hinata tried to stand up, grinning to herself. Hinata grimaced as she thought, "I needed to think that through better." "Neji," she exclaimed, and her cousin quickly entered. She blushed and said, "I can't get up." Neji sighed and assisted her in standing up. Neji said, "You shouldn't do that to me." When Neji saw his uncle and younger cousin, he said, "I thought you were in serious trouble, why are they unconscious?" Hinata smiled and said, "Oh, I just told them that the babies were perfectly fine." When Hinata passed Neji's room and saw Tenten, she grinned to herself. "Babies?" Neji asked before he passed out on the floor. Tenten did a classic Hinata by eeping and turning a bright red when Hinata called out, "You should go help Neji, he is unconscious in father's office." Tenten said, "W. What did y.u.d.do?" Hinata hugged her best friend and Tenten squealed, forgetting all about Neji and her embarrassment. "I just told him I was having twins." Hinata returned her friend's hug with a smile. "That is amazing. Wait till Sakura and Ino hear about this," Tenten replied. She went on, "They will freak." As she pulled Hinata from the house, Hinata could hardly command the guards to assist her sister, cousin, and father. Hinata was breathing heavily when they arrived at the flower shop. Tenten called out, "Ino," as she entered. With some irritation, Ino uttered, "What, Tenten, I am right here." Tenten exclaimed, "Guess what Hinata told me?" Tenten was taken aback and Ino inquired, "That she is having twins?" "Yeah, it is already around most of the village, everyone is talking about it," she continued. "Ino!" Sakura exclaimed, sprinting past Tenten and Hinata. Sakura, breathing heavily, exclaimed, "Did you hear that Hinata is having twins?" Ino simply gestured to Sakura and pointed past her in the direction of Hinata. After 3 months, Hinata was moving through the village at a slow pace. Tsunade always had at least one Anbu or Junin keeping watch over her because she was more than a week late for her labor. Hinata moaned in agony and almost collapsed as a tremendous wave of pain struck her while she was walking. The Anbu lifted her up and escorted her. The Anbu worriedly inquired, "What is wrong, Hinata? Sama?" Hinata groaned in pain once more and said, "I think they are coming." Hinata pleaded, "Help me get to the hospital, Tora." Her Anbu nodded, carefully raised her, and began to hurry toward the hospital. A few hours later, "Ah!" exclaimed Hinata as Tenten dabbed at her perspiration. In the corner, Neji was trembling from the terrifying scene. Hinata angrily commanded, "Neji, give me your damn hand," as Neji clutched his broken hand from the last time he had held her hand, shivering even more. Tenten yelled, "Neji," as Neji got to his feet and slowly extended his hand to Hinata. However, Hinata was faster than he anticipated, snatching it as another wave of pain passed through her and crushing Neji's hand with a loud crack. Neji exclaimed in agony, "Ah, my hand!" Hinata cried out in agony, "Ah, Naruto, if you were still alive I would kill you myself." Neji immediately withdrew to the waiting area, clutching his hands, as Hinata released his hand. His friends watched in astonishment and mild amusement as Neji trembled and shivered. Shoji inquired, "What happened, Neji?" As Tsunade approached them and noticed Neji's black and blue hands, Neji remarked, "Hinata crushed my hands." With a sigh, Tsunade swiftly fixed and repaired Neji's bones. Neji fell to the fetal position and began to shake when she heard a scream of pain. As Shikamaru pretended to cough, Tsunade questioned, "So which one of you is going in next?" As Tamari slapped him over the head, Shika lied and said, "I think I am not feeling too well." Tamari volunteered Shikamaru and shoved her into the room, saying, "Shika-kun will go." A shriek of fear and agony was soon heard. Tamari inquired, "How strong is Hinata?" Let's just say she could probably pick up an Akamichi before she became pregnant," Kiba replied. As a trembling Shikamaru emerged, muttering something about difficult childbirth, Kiba remarked, "Hana.ne. Chan told me that women normally get a bit stronger while giving birth or something like that." Kiba said, "Shino, it's your turn." Shino said gravely, "Sorry Kiba, but I cannot afford for the tunnels that are buried throughout my body to collapse." Kiba started, "Show," but noticed that Choji had left. As Tamari informed him, went to get food. Lee, he glanced around, but to no avail. They heard Hinata yell, "Oh, so you think you won't cry out, Lee," followed by a loud yelp, and Lee was flung from the room, hitting the wall with a loud thud. As Tamari sighed, got up, and entered the room, Kiba begged, "I don't want to go in there." Hinata jumped and exclaimed, "Kiba, get you ass in here this instant." Tamari emerged grinning contentedly. Tamari grabbed him and pushed him back into the room as he tried to flee. "Give me your hand." They heard Kiba beg, "No, please, I need them for my jutsu." Hinata shouted, "Then give me your foot," as they heard a thud and a loud cry of agony from Kiba and Hinata. Kiba was soon wheeled from the room and into the adjacent examination room to Hinata's. Tamari said, "Choji, it's your turn." Choji simply shrugged and entered the room. Hinata let out a cry of agony, but Choji did not respond. When they heard a little cry coming from the room, everyone fell silent. This was followed by another cry and another grunt of pain. Everyone stared at Choji in awe as he returned soon after, eating some chips. Shikamaru questioned, "How did you not get hurt?" Choji casually remarked, "Oh, I used my expansion jutsu on my hand so she could hold onto my fingers instead." As Neji, Tamari, Ino, and Sakura shoved him aside, Choji remarked, "Anyway, you can go see her." As they crowded into the room, Hinata was seen carrying 2 bundles. Tenten grinned and drew the blankets away from the infants' heads to reveal that the girl had bright red hair and violet eyes, and both had their father's whisker marks. The boy also had bright blue eyes and blonde hair, just like Naruto. They were giggling at the newcomers. Ino tickled the boy's chin and inquired, "What are their names?" "He is going to be Minato Hyuga Namikaze and she is going to be Kushina Hyuga Namikaze," said Hinata. Before yawning, Hinata added, "After Naruto. Kun's parents." She gave in to her fatigue and her eyes slowly closed. While Hinata slept, Shikamaru pulled out a camera and snapped a picture of her while the infants stared at it in wonder. Iruka said, "You are going to be a hellion just like you father, aren't you?" As he shivered and the two infants grinned up at him like a fox. As the others laughed, he muttered, "I think they will be worse." A few days later, nearly all of Hinata's friends and family were present to support her as she was being discharged from the hospital. The fact that almost everyone in the village was waiting to see the two new babies outside the hospital didn't help either. While Hinata held Kushina, Iruka held Minato. The girls immediately cooed when they saw the babies as they left. Of all the villagers, Ayame was the first to see the newborns. Before he grabbed her finger, Ayame cooed, "Oh, he looks just like his father." She tickled his chin, causing his face to wrinkle. A little worn out, Hinata remarked, "Iruka. Sensei thinks they will be a hellion just like Naruto-kun was." As she observed the fox like smiles the two infants wore, Ayame remarked, "I have no doubt in that." After navigating the crowd for the next few hours, Hinata was at last en route to the Hyuga clan. A few shinobi who were walking by would leap down and congratulate her or swoon over the adorable babies. As Hinata embraced Kushina closer to her chest, she thought sadly, "At least they will have a family." Kushina gave her a curious look before she reached up and touched her cheek. Hinata grinned at the infant as she looked down. Kushina gave her a toothless smile as Hinata cooed, "You are such a good girl." Iruka said, "You are a natural mother." Hinata informed him, "Not really. I took care of Hanabi-chan since she was born. I guess you could say I have been acting like a mother since I was 5. Hinata said with sadness. To Hinata's delight, Iruka smiled warmly and said, "Even if your mother survived, you would have been just as motherly." As they reached the large steel gate of the Hyuga compound, Hinata said to him, "Thanks for your abundance of confidence in me." Hinata shook her head when Iruka asked, "Do you want me to escort you in?" As Iruka gave Minato to Hinata, Hinata remarked, "No, I can take it from here." She was holding the two babies with ease because she moved naturally. As Iruka opened the gate for her, Hinata smiled and said, "Thank you for the help, Iruka-sensei." Iruka smiled and said, "It was my pleasure, Hinata-sama." A branch member said, "Hinata-sama, you are finally out?" With a smile, Hinata said, "Yes, I am Wa-chan." Before leaving the woman, Hinata said, "I would have been back sooner, but apparently these two are celebrities." She was passing her father's study at the time. With a gloomy frown, Hinata heard one of the elders say, "We have to seal the younger twin." As Hinata glared at the wall before making her way to Neji's room, Hishi said solemnly, "I will not allow the seal to be placed on my grandchildren." After kicking the door and hearing a lot of scurrying and an eep, the door opened, revealing a partially nude Neji standing before her. He cleared his throat. Neji said, "Hinata-sama, what can I do for you?" Hinata smiled and said, "Can you and Tenten-chan take these two for a few minutes?" Neji heard the edge in her voice and felt sorry for the people who had irritated Hinata. "I have something to take care of," she added. Neji took Kushina in his arms and whimpered when she grabbed his long hair and pulled violently. Of course. When Hinata noticed that one of Tenten's buns was loose and hanging down her back, she couldn't help but laugh. Tenten had come to the door with more clothes. Tenten took Minato in her arms right away and began to coo. Before leaving, Hinata gave her cousin a bow. As she tickled Minato, Tenten remarked, "Those elders are going to be hurting." Confused, Neji questioned, "What do you mean?" His eyes grew wide as she asked, "What happens when twins are born in this clan?" Knowing Hinata, she will not allow that to happen, even if that means excommunicating herself from this clan, she continued. Alongside Hinata in front of her father's study, Hinata stood. Before losing her temper and kicking the door as hard as she could, sending it flying backwards, she heard an elder say, "You cannot defy the entire Hyuga clan council, Hishi-sama." Into the study she strode. One of the male elders demanded, "What are you doing here?" Hinata ground out, "Shut up." He screamed, "Why you are?" as Hinata's wings pinned him to the wall and punctured each of his shoulders. A few of them shuddered as Hinata threateningly said, "If you even consider sealing my children, and I will kill you without a second thought." As their eyes widened significantly, she threatened once more, saying, "And if you try it, not only will I leave this clan, I will make it my life's work to make sure that everyone knows of the evils that you have done." The elder fell to the ground as she withdrew her wings from him. Before turning on her heels, she added, "Plus I doubt the villagers would like it if I said you want to harm them." Hishi leaned forward and raised his head with his arms, saying, "Well, you heard my daughter." As they complained, Hishi questioned, "Are you willing to have possibly the most powerful Hyuga ever for something so simple?" As he watched them pull the injured elder away, Hishi grinned to himself. Hishi thought, "You are just as fierce and scary as your mother." The destroyed lab of Orochimaru in Iwa after 3 months. Something began to rise from the depths of the ocean, and large waves smashed against the concave cliff face. Through the water and into the air, a huge dome of black chakra rose. A human figure was visible inside the dome. The person's missing limbs were growing back fast. The chakra dome suddenly exploded, sending a ring of chakras flying in all directions. The Konoha girl with indigo hair was staring at the 2 kids in front of her with a weary expression. She felt someone enter and thought, they have as much energy as their father. One brunette girl with her hair in buns said, Hinata-chan, you look tired. Why don't you rest while I watch the twins? Hinata said in a weary tone, I think I will accept that offer, Tenten. She approached Tenten and embraced her briefly before making her way to the door. Oh yeah, I was going to bring them to Tsunade Sama to visit her around lunchtime. If you can do that for me I will be grateful, she replied with a yawn. Tenten grinned and began playing with the 2 infants as Hinata departed, saying, no problem. As Hinata fell onto her bed, she thought, I wish you were with me, Naruto-kun. She fell asleep immediately and began to snore softly. The village was suddenly shaken and the windows were shattered by a chakra wave that slammed into it. Before panic overtook her and she rushed from her room into the living room, where she saw Tenten hovering over the twins with glass shards resting on her back. Her eyes swung open as recognition hit her. Tenten sat up and said, Hinata, what was that? The lab of Orochimaru, a blonde teenager, struggling to breathe, collapsed to his knees on top of the water. How did it happen to me? As she looked around, he thought. He noticed that his right pant leg and left arm sleeve were missing. As his surroundings slowed down and then changed entirely, he closed his eyes and focused, thinking, I lost a few limbs. When he opened his eye, he was startled to see the sewers rather than the woods. What the devil? He pondered. As he passed the cage and noticed Kyubi lying down behind the bars, he called, Kyubi, are you here? Naruto-kun, I used too much chakra, stated Kyubi. My consciousness is slipping away. While my consciousness is not like this, my body will be evil, since I am the closest one to the 10-tailed beast. My evil side takes over if I use too much chakra. She cautioned him. It will take several years to gain all the chakra I lost back. She continued. As her eyes began to sag, she added, do not believe what the beast says. You will not have the same control over my chakra without me being the regulator. Yami. Kyubi's chakra is overwhelming and will take you over, she stated to him. She said to him, good luck, Naruto-kun. Her eyes briefly closed before opening and taking on a bloodlustful expression. Yami. Kyubi screamed at him, get over here so I can rip you to pieces, and then slammed the cage door. Naruto jumped back in surprise. Naruto informed her, not going to happen. Well, bye. Naruto cried as his mind returned to reality and he realized painfully that Kyubi had not fully healed him. When he tore open his frayed shirt, he discovered a fist-sized hole in his chest that was gradually getting better. Gosh, why didn't I feel that earlier? As he tried to slow the blood flow, he thought. At Konoha in front of the Hokage Tsunade stood Hinata and Tenten. Tsunade gazed out her broken windows and demanded, what the hell happened? How can every window in Konoha break almost simultaneously? She inquired. As Hinata moved her twins into a more comfortable position in her arms, she remarked, Tsunade Sama, I know that chakra type rather well. Before Hinata scowled at her leader, the 2 infants were startled and began to cry. Well, what is it? She cried. As Hinata rocked the 2, she muttered in embarrassment, Ops, sorry. Tsunade was shocked when Hinata said, anyway, that chakra is Kyubi's. As Tsunade put it, but that can't be. Jiraiya said he was dead and he knows not to lie about something like this to me, she responded. With hope shining in her eyes, Hinata remarked, the concentration of chakra we felt was enormous. I would have to say that Kyubi-chan used most of her chakra to do something just now. So you think that Kyubi might have somehow kept Naruto alive? Tsunade inquired. As Tsunade nodded, Hinata remarked, that the seal failed and she was able to escape before Naruto-kun died and just reformed her body. Okay, I will send a team to Orochimaru's lab in Konoha. Tsunade replied. Hinata, get prepared, you will be on that team, she stated. Hinata questioned, but what about the twins? As soon as Shizune entered, Tsunade remarked, I am sure Shizune and I can take care of them. As she placed the stack of papers on her desk, Shizune questioned, what did you volunteer for me to do, again? Before approaching Hinata and picking up the little red-headed infant and beginning to rock her in an effort to soothe her, she added, oh, and those are damage reports from throughout the village. Hinata said softly, so as not to wake the blonde infant in her arms, thanks. I just volunteered as to watch these two for Hinata while she went on her mission, Tsunade replied. As the infant girl relaxed and tucked herself into Shizun's arms, Shizun remarked, "Oh, if that is it, I am fine with it." While Hinata nodded and gave Tenten her young son, Tsunade remarked, "Anyway Hinata, you will go get your teammates. Hana Inazuka will be the 4th team member since Kurenai is out of the village currently." As she jumped onto the roof outside the window and spread her wings before taking off from the roof and into the air, Hinata remarked, "Well, I will be back soon." Alongside Naruto before he passed out, Naruto had climbed the cliff and reached the edge. His body was covered in puddles of blood. Alongside Hinata, Hana, her dogs, and Team 8 were waiting at the gate. Kiba asked in a slightly irritated tone, "What is our mission?" He went on, "I thought the lab was destroyed." Hinata said, "It was, but that chakra pulse was Kyuubi's chakra." Then they began to jump away. As Hinata shrugged, Shino questioned, "So you think that Naruto is still alive?" She hoped he was, but she said, "It could be." From her position in front of them, Hana remarked, "You do realize that Naruto will just be killed when he gets home if he is alive." Haishi. Sama doesn't seem to be the type of person who takes it kindly when his daughter becomes pregnant out of wedlock and at the age of 13, she clarified. A few days later the tree line had just been breached. Before they all began to jump away, Hana pointed up the cliffside and said, "Okay, by this map Tsunade. Sama gave me, we have to go that way." As they reached the enormously slanted cliff, she thought, Hinata hasn't been sleeping well. I hope Naruto-kun is alive. I don't think her heart can take too much more. Kiba sniffed the air and said, "I think we found it." He said, "Nay. Chan, do you smell that?" Hana looked around and said, "Ya, blood, and a lot of it." Kiba, Akamaru, and Shino, you two search the waterline while Hinata and I look up here. Yell if you find anything out of the ordinary. Kiba nodded, and Shino responded, affirmative. She told her dogs, "You three spread out and look for anyone suspicious." They nodded, and the three disappeared. The two boys jumped down to the waters, and Hana commanded, "Come on Hinata." The two began to leave. Seeing Hinata halt in her tracks, she trailed off, "Hinata, I don't want you to get your hopes up with this." A blond boy with a big pool of dried blood beneath him caught her attention as she followed Hinata's gaze. Hana shouted, "Kiba, Akamaru, Shino, get over here," and immediately began to run in the direction of the boy. She dropped beside him and gently flipped him over to reveal the boy's whiskered face. She heard the faint sounds of a heartbeat as she brought her head to his chest. She cried out, "He is alive," as she noticed the hole in his chest closing. As her hands began to glow green, she put it over his chest and tried to bandage the wound, thinking, if he returned when that chakra blast hit us, he has lost too much blood for him to live more than 5 minutes, yet here we are 6 days later. Hana saw Hinata with tears streaming down her cheeks but a sincere smile on her face, and she could hear quiet sobs coming from behind her. "Nay. Chan, what d?" Kiba trailed off upon seeing Naruto's chest covered in blood. Whispering, "Holy shit," Kiba said. A few hours later Hana had used what little medical ninjutsu she had to seal the wound. She noticed that the sun was lowering as she glanced up at the sky. "Naruto is stable for now, we will sleep here tonight and set out early tomorrow morning," she said. She turned to Hinata, who was sleeping with Naruto's head in her lap, and said, "Kiba, you and Akamaru will take the first watch, my dogs will take the second, and Shino and I will take the third." She had used the time to clean his body of the blood. She thought, that boy is something else. They all nodded, and she said, "Okay. Shino, Kiba, you two go get firewood. Akamaru, you and my dogs go hunt for food, and I will set up the tents." While the two boys ventured into the woods, the 4 dogs took off. The morning after, everyone was awakened by Hana. "Okay, we will have to make a makeshift stretcher for Naruto," Hana responded. They all dispersed, with the exception of Hinata, and she remarked, "So we need 2 7-foot-long sticks roughly as thick as your fist." Hinata moved a lock of hair out of Naruto. Kun's face as a pained expression appeared on his face and whispered, "Naruto-kun, you should see our children, they are amazing." Hinata stared at him, feeling powerless. When she heard rustling, she looked up to see the Iwa, Kumo, and Suna teams emerge from the woods. When Hinata saw the familiar faces of the Sand siblings and their sensei, she immediately became defensive. This blonde Suna woman said, "Hinata, Chan, you are already here?" With her guard still up, Hinata questioned, "What are you all doing here?" "Our villages were hit by a chakra wave and Shukaku told me it was Kyuubi's chakra, so we came to investigate," Gaara stated to her. A blonde Kumo woman said, "Nibi told me the same thing." I had to check out the chakra blast that came from within my territory, the elderly gentleman said. When Hana, Shino, Kiba, and the 4 dogs emerged from the forest, the blonde Kumo woman hissed almost silently at them, and the dogs immediately began to growl. So the small brat somehow survived? He asked, glancing at the form. Hana stared at them and demanded, what is going on here? Hinata remarked, they all felt the chakra blast too. Hana looked at the others and said, well, I know the Suna shinobi, but who are you 8? As Hana's eyes widened and she stood guardedly in front of Naruto, the elderly man declared, brat, I am the Sandame Tsuchikage. I am Yugito Ni and I am the Jinchuriki of the Nibi no Neko. Yugito replied. Gaara questioned, do you want me to carry Naruto with my sand? Hana remarked, that would be helpful. Gaara used his sand to lift Naruto up, and she retreated, saying, well, we should be going. Yugito said, do you mind if I tag along? I owe him a lot for freeing me from that lab, she continued. Hana turned to Hinata and said, that wouldn't be up to me. Yugito's teammates snorted as Hinata remarked, I don't care, if she tries anything I will just beat her down. One of them said, did you not listen or something? She is a Jinchuriki. As her wings pierced the back of her shirt and were firmly secured to her back, Hinata questioned, come and let's get Naruto back to Konoha so Tsunade. Sama can heal Naruto. Said Hinata. You 3 go back to Kumo and tell Raikage. Sama I am going to Konoha. Yugito gave the order. As he and his team left, Oanoki said, well, tell the Slug Princess to send me a report on him, I owe him a lot too. Late at night 10 days later office of the Hokage. The twins were sound asleep on the couch, and a gaunt Tsunade was working on paperwork. When someone rushed into the room, she thought, oh, now I know why Hinata-chan is always tired, those two have almost boundless energy. Tsunade. Sama Team 8 along with the Sand siblings and a Kumo shinobi just came back, said the individual. As her eyes widened and she jumped up from her seat before Shizune entered carrying another stack of papers, he added, they have another person with them but Gaara has whoever it is encased in sand. Tsunade cried, Shizune they're back. Before she leapt out the window and headed for the main gate, she gave the order, stay and watch the twins while I go check on them. She noticed the small group of people making their way to the hospital along the main road. She touched down in front of everyone. She gave the order, report quickly. As Tsunade appeared perplexed, Hana uttered, mission, success. She stared at the ball of sand hovering close to Tsunade and blurted out, this was an information gathering mission, unless, she trailed off, as Hinata nodded and grinned slightly. Naruto. Is back. Hinata muttered. As Gaara lowered the sand in front of her and it opened up to reveal Naruto's unconscious form, Tsunade commanded, let me see him. She was shocked to see the barely sealed hole in his chest. As she began to cry, Gaara told her, I had to encase him in my sand to keep him from reopening his wound every 15 minutes. As they all began to move, she gave the order, bring him to the hospital as fast as possible. A few hours later, wiping her hands, Tsunade left the operating room. She noticed that everyone was nervously waiting. He is out of the woods now, but I have no idea when he will wake up. Tsunade replied. Then Hinata explained, but he will live. Tsunade informed them that, yes he will, it is just a matter of time before he wakes up. She rubbed her temples and continued, I will have to tell the village that their hero is now not dead. Then she muttered, I need a drink. The following day, looking up at the Hokage's tower balcony, everyone was perplexed. Why everyone was called was a mystery even to the elders. For the first time in more than a year, the crowd heard Tsunade's voice, I am glad everyone could make it. And saw their Hokage grinning. Something amazing has happened last night. She said. When she saw everyone's confirmation, she asked, do you all remember when all those windows broke? As everyone became perplexed, she informed them, well that was caused by a chakra blast from one of our own shinobi, it was felt through the continent. Late last night the team I sent out came back, but with an extra Konoha shinobi. She said. As everyone fell silent, she cried out, I am happy to inform everyone that our own Black Death of Konoha Naruto Namikaze was alive and has returned to us. She spoke softly, but everyone could hear her, although right now he is in a coma and we do not know when he will wake up. Tsunade smiled as a sudden roar of applause burst from the audience. As she felt exhausted, Tsunade thought, you will be shocked when you wake up Naruto. She went on to say, I am too old to do all-nighters. After a month, life in Konoha had been gradually returning to normal in the month since Naruto's return. Sakura would spend some of her free time from training and missions with Hinata, and Hinata spent a lot of time in the hospital talking to Naruto about a variety of topics. Frequently, the two would find themselves conversing with Naruto in an attempt to get him to return to them. Every day after school, Konohamaru, Moegi, and Udon would visit Iruka to check on her. They would frequently talk for hours about Naruto's previous adventures, and much to Iruka's chagrin, Konohamaru would be taking notes. At the strangest hours, Kakashi would arrive to see how Naruto was doing. Before leaving Konoha to return to Suna with his siblings and sensei, Gaara had made one visit to Naruto. Soon after Gaara, Yugito departed to return to Kumo. At different times of the day, the other members of the Konoha 11 would visit him to see how he was doing. Hinata would frequently receive some non-hospital food from Asuma and Kurenai. Twice a day, Tucci and Ayame would visit, once after closing their stand and once in the early morning. Iruka would frequently arrive before Anko. At the moment, Hinata was observing her kids as they played on top of Naruto's bed. When are you going to awaken Naruto-kun? Hinata pondered in her mind. What is this wait, huh? As Naruto felt two wriggling objects on his legs, he thought. He felt the covers and thought, I am not in the forest anymore. The light burned his eyes as he slowly opened them. Naruto moaned, what happened to me? Naruto-kun, exclaimed Hinata joyfully. Naruto rubbed his head and then turned to face his legs, where he saw two infants with bright red and blonde hair, asking, what happened to me? Last thing I remember is falling unconscious in the forest. He inquired, are you watching Hinata? Hinata said uneasily, No, she pondered, what if he doesn't want children? Shyly, she said, they are, ours. She nodded and he asked, really, awesome, he cried out as Hinata gave him a startled look. He joyfully added, I always wanted a family and now I have one. Which caused Hinata to smile as the door was flung off its hinges. Naruto looked up at the blonde woman with tears in her eyes and said, Hey Chan, you are going to have to fix that. Before long, his head was crushed between her enormous breasts in a smothering embrace. Hinata quickly let go of her boyfriend, saying, Tsunade. Sama, you are turning my boyfriend blue. Tsunade cried out, sorry, Naruto, as he stopped breathing. Naruto gasped as his friends and sensei began to swarm the room to greet the now awake teenager, saying, you will kill someone with those hugs. Naruto said, hey guys. Sakura's embrace was adorable. He was startled when he sensed her sobbing and trembling. Sakura, don't cry. Naruto cried uneasily as he tried to console the girl who was crying. With his nose in a little orange book and Guy hiding behind him, looking fearfully at Hinata, Kakashi said, good to see you are awake, Naruto. He had exploded into his room while unconscious, screaming something about flames of youth, which caused Hinata to grab him by his spandex and repeatedly slap him with her wings. Guy remarked, your flames of youth burn brightly. Over Kakashi's shoulder. His silence startled everyone, but they could see his terrified eyes on Hinata. Naruto asked, thanks? As Sakura's tears stopped. Shikamaru remarked, you really are a pain in the ass, Naruto. Just as Naruto's stomach began to growl fiercely, Choji handed him a bag of chips and said, munch munch Naruto. I brought munch munch you some chips. Then Naruto said, thanks Choji. Let me through, Ino yelled as she moved between the two and shoved her teammates. She said joyfully, hey Naruto, glad to see you awake. As everyone nodded, she continued, Konoha isn't the same without you. Lowly, Anko threatened, brat, if you do this again, I will find you and make sure you are dead. Iruka told her bluntly, Anko-chan, you should avoid doing anything stressful. After saying, just because I am pregnant doesn't mean I can't threaten people, she gave Iruka a comical glare. Pregnant? A startled Naruto inquired. Anko grinned and said, oh, you should know all about that. Heishi remarked, I think we're going to have a conversation, Naruto. Quite bluntly, Neji declared, I will Jayuken your nuts, Naruto. With a smile that sent a chill down Neji's spine, Hinata said, Neji, you will not do that. Well, Naruto yawned, I am tired. Everyone turned to look at Jiraiya when a voice from the window said, it is good to see that you are back, brat. Naruto said, hey Ero. Senin. His kids began to giggle. Don't just call me that. Jiraiya cried out. Tsunade ushered everyone out except Hinata and the twins, saying, okay, everyone, you should leave. Naruto needs to get some rest. After picking up the twins, Hinata lay down beside Naruto and placed the two between them. Unconsciously, Naruto put his arms around Hinata and their kids after he had already left. As the door closed, a camera clicked, but the young parents were unaware of it. As Tsunade turned to see Jiraiya staring at her intently, she thought, hey, I bet they will like this picture. She sighed and said, "Okay, come on, we can talk in my office." A few minutes later they were in her office together. Jiraiya stated, "I have gotten more information on Akatsuki. They will start moving to gain the tailed beasts in a year and a half." Jiraiya stated, "And with how Naruto is now, they will most likely come for him now rather than later," he continued. Tsunade asked, "What do you suggest we do? Set up more Anbu guards?" But she already knew what needed to be done. Jiraiya declared, "I am going to take him out of Konoha. You know as well as I do that I can make that boy disappear off the radar," he replied. Tsunade informed him, it will take about a week for him to be fully recovered. Jiraiya made the statement, "That is fine by me." Tsunade inquired, "So where will you be taking him?" She sighed and nodded knowingly as Jiraiya said, "You know I cannot tell you that." Tsunade commanded, "Just make sure he comes back, and not a pervert." She was told by Jiraiya, "Don't worry, I will." Tsunade muttered, "Hinata-chan will not like this." She took a bottle of sake from her desk and drank most of it in one big gulp. A few hours later Naruto and his daughter were playing when Tsunade entered the room. She gave the two a sorrowful glance. As his daughter laughed up at him, Naruto exclaimed, "Oh hey Ka-chan." He noticed her dejected expression and asked, "What is wrong?" Hinata's mouth fell open as Tsunade said, "Naruto, you will be leaving Konoha on a training mission with Jiraiya in 1 week." "What? No," cried Hinata. She went on, "I just got him back. He won't be gone long, a year and a half at the most." Tsunade replied, "He needs to go because right now he is the weakest of all the tailed beasts. He can easily be captured by the Akatsuki," she said with sadness. She also said, "I am sorry." Naruto said, "There is something I need to tell you." To confuse them, Naruto added, "I need Jiraiya's help learning to control Kyuubi's chakra. She has fallen unconscious and lost a lot of control over herself and her Yami side took her over. She is currently slamming against the bars of the cage attempting to escape. So I think it would be good for me to go with Jiraiya," Naruto said to Hinata. Hinata stammered, "Y.uw? Want T.tol? Leave M.me?" Naruto saw the tears streaming down her cheeks and told her, "No, I don't want to. It is I need to leave in order to protect Konoha, the future, and most of all to protect our children." He wiped away her tears and said, "Please don't cry." "I detest witnessing her cry," Naruto reflected. Hinata let out a sob and said, "But you are leaving us." She was told by Naruto, "Only temporarily. I will write every chance I get and send a toad to deliver it," he stated. Hinata said, softly but loudly enough for him to hear the ominous tone, "You better." After a week Naruto stood beside Jiraiya, his trademark black cloak draped over his shoulders. Jiraiya said, "We should get going, brat." Naruto walked over to Hinata and kissed her forehead, then Minato's and Kushina's, saying, "Okay Ero Sensei." His words to Hinata were, "I will be back before you know it." After saying, "Goodbye Naruto-kun," Hinata leaned forward and gave him a passionate kiss. Before he raised the hood, she whispered in his ear, "Come back soon, Naruto-kun." Naruto turned to see Jiraiya had gone before him and said, "Goodbye Konoha." Naruto jogged to catch up with him and yelled, "Damn it Ero Sensei, wait up."
That's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this great story. See you in the next one.